section flowing. We love interacting with all of you. Let's get to 2,000 likes. Every 1,000 likes, I'm going to take a shot. So we're 350 likes away. Help us get there. And, of course, sharing the video on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, texting it to a friend. That is going to help us out. We're also now live on our Dallas Mavericks Today YouTube channel. The Mavericks are a handful of picks away at number 10. So if you're a Mavs fan, here's our draft coverage. The Detroit Pistons are on the clock. We'll see what Dallas does at number 10. Chase, before we get back to Detroit, quick thoughts on what you would do if you were the Mavs at 10. Obviously, it could depend on who's available.
If I'm Dallas, I'm exploring that trade for Jarrett Allen. If I can trade number 10 to Cleveland for Jarrett Allen, I think that he'd be a really good fit with Luka Doncic, especially if they bring back Kyrie Irving. Luka is not known as an all-world defender. Kyrie Irving is not a willing defender.
Need that rim protector.
And in losing Dorian Finney-Smith, their defense, which 2 years ago was one of the best in the NBA, a big reason why they made it to the Final Four, it took a nosedive. You need a rim protector. You need a better defensive player. Luka and Kyrie can operate the pick and roll with Jarrett Allen on some of those lob plays as well. I think he'd be a really good fit. If not, you have to take a look at how the draft board will fall, because there are some interesting players who could make sense for Dallas. You could go Taylor Hendricks there. You could go Jarace Walker if you're looking for an athletic big. Last year, they kind of addressed guard, so I don't know if they do that again. Dereck Lively might be a little bit too early, but he can be like a Kevon Looney type of player, or a Clint Capella, who is a worse offensive player.
Yeah, fascinating to see what the Mavs do. We should find out in the next 30, 45 minutes here with the Detroit Pistons on the clock. And draft is kind of humming along the first 4 picks, and I think it speaks to what we were saying, Chase. There's some unknown with how teams feel about the rest of this draft beyond these top 4 or 5 players. And now Detroit at 5, is it Ausar Thompson? Is it Anthony Black? Are they dangling this pick perhaps? We'll have to wait and see what happens here. Super chat from your boy Savage, $5 super chat. If you're watching on Chat Sports, Mavericks Today or Warriors Today, and you super chat, we'll get you on screen here. Shout out Dale Webb Jr. Where does Chris Paul play? Well, he got traded to the Warriors.
He's going to play for the Warriors. They're not going to buy him out.
Only question now is, does he start or come off the bench? I think as a 6th-man role, that fits him perfectly at this stage in his career.
And spot starter for when Steph Curry is out, or for load management. Or if you want to switch up that starting lineup and go with 2 guards, with 2 ball handlers, you could start him as well.
Could be matchup dependent. We'll see what Steve Kerr does. JP, shout out for the 10. He says, thanks for the stream. If Dame is traded, what do you think the Blazers can get? I mean, the 2 teams linked recently have been Brooklyn and Miami. So a Miami package, there's a report that they want Bam. I don't think you're getting Bam, a Bam-centric deal. So I think it's Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and picks, something like that.
If you trade him to the Knicks, you have Scoot, you have Shaedon Sharpe, and you have Anthony Simons.
Yep.
RJ Barrett. You get a wing who can play some defense.
Couple picks.
I don't hate it. Do you go Obi Toppin, who can play the 4? In addition,
I'm not convinced.
Do you get Emmanuel quickly as your 6th man? Couple of options there for New York.
Not convinced the Knicks are interested with Jalen Brunson there.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think the Nets are a sneaky team to keep an eye on.
I agree.
If they can get him without giving up Mikal Bridges, that's interesting. Iowa says Nuggets should continue to trade up for Coulibaly. That would be interesting. Look, when you're a win-now team, you don't need several picks. Like, if there's one player you can identify that you want, go get him.
And what a job that Denver has done. I don't think they get enough credit for this, of drafting and developing players. Nikola Jokic got drafted during the Taco Bell commercial. They took a chance on Michael Porter Jr. They drafted Jamal Murray. Christian Brown last year, great selection. They've done a great job of developing and drafting players. I think they can do the same tonight and get a player, because they're going to be paying a lot of money to a lot of these guys who can be a plug-and-play guy.
What they have done well, too, is not only finding good talent, but finding guys they have a vision for what their role is going to be once they get him in there. J. Peach, if you love something, you got to know when to let it go. I love you, Dame. Exactly. I mean, look, I think
just like a girlfriend that you're about to break up
in a perfect world, Dame would play in Portland forever and win a title, but eventually you have to accept reality. And I just don't think there's a move out there that can help them win.
It's been a great relationship between Dame and Portland, but it's come to a point where a breakup needs to happen. It just needs to.
How about this, Chase? We've almost surpassed our Super Chat total from last year, and we're only 4 picks in.
Let's go.
If we get a $100 super chat right now, Chase and I will do a beer bong race because we will have passed last year's total. We in? $100 super chat, or if 2 people send in 50, we'll count that as well.
Let's go.
Let's beat last year's total, and let's keep this party pumping.
I don't think Paul Price can super chat again. I think he reached the $500 limit, so somebody else, Mike Dibble, has to step up to the challenge.
Paul, if you're in the chat and you want a Venmo, say, yeah, I'll Venmo, and we'll drop some Venmos in there. We'll make it. Chase, myself, we'll make it happen because all donations help us grow, and it allows us to expand our draft coverage year in and year out. If you love the NBA draft, type me right now in the chat. Let's get a second name on that one for the real ones who know. Type me in the chat when it comes to that. Second source is what I meant. Josiah says me. Basketball Kid says me. Ander says me. Let's see. Dark, Paul, Ander, Josiah, Gaming, Jaden, Wesley, Josiah, Rodrigo, Rob, Jaden. The pick is in. We're going to get to that here in just a moment here. Colin, Jaden. We got Anthony Stack in the chat as well. Juju Delando. We've got Aaron Foley, Dustin, type me if you love the NBA draft and if you're enjoying our coverage. Back-to-back Thompson twins here, Chase. We will get to it in a second, but Ausar Thompson is going to be the selection for Detroit.
Yeah, different player than his brother Amon, and he's also very, very athletic. Not quite as bouncy, but that's not a shot at him at all. He's 6'6", 218, 7-foot wingspan. He also averaged 16 points per game, 6 assists, nearly 7 rebounds last year. Very good at pickpocketing other players. Very good defensive player. His true shooting percentage, not that of his brother. Same athletic profile, but he's kind of more of a wing as compared to being a guard. I like him as an off-ball player who can cut to the basket. You can hit him on some backdoor cuts. You can run a little two-man action with him as well. Solid ball handler, but also not as great of a ball handler as his brother. And Rolly's comp, I like it. It's a more athletic Jimmy Butler. And if you remember Jimmy Butler coming out of Marquette, he was not the player that he is right now. And even the player that Jimmy Butler is right now, he's somewhat limited on the offensive end of the floor. He just has this level of dedication to the game of basketball and the cutthroat nature in between the ears that's allowed him to become a great competitor. So more athletic Jimmy Butler, Rolly, I kind of like that as your pro comp for him.
Yeah, I actually really love this fit. When you look at teams in this lottery who could take Ausar Thompson and really make the most out of him early on in his career and in the future, I think Detroit could be the #1 team because you really think about it, their backcourt is set what you think for the foreseeable future with Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and then you got a front court that consists of Wiseman, Jalen Duren, and then Isaiah Stewart. So you really needed that wing athlete to help complement the backcourt of Ivey and Cunningham, and Ausar Thompson can really do that. If he can improve his three ball and shoot 35 to 38% from three in the NBA, this is going to be a really tough Pistons team to beat because you might have an all-worldly athletic team just looking at Duren, Ausar, Jaden Ivey, and Cunningham. Those are 4 unbelievable athletes. So if Ausar can get that shooting down with his defense, this is a perfect 3-and-D wing to pair up with Ivey and Cunningham in Detroit.
And the good news too, Rolly, right, is Detroit's not expected to win next year, so he can develop his offensive game and, just kind of focus on the things he does well right now. Get out in transition, be that athletic guy. I think this could be a fun team to watch. They may only win 25 or 30 games, but you're starting to see the core come together, and Ausar Thompson, another piece to that core in Detroit. You get a couple of more in there, and maybe you're cooking with something. Grade the pick, A, B, C, D, or F. Let us know in the comments section. Look, you get to a certain point in the draft, like if you're taking one of the best players on the board, it can't be considered a bad pick, Chase. I think it's a solid selection here.
No, I think it's a really good pick, and I also like the fit here, as Rolly was alluding to. Let's hope that Cade Cunningham can come off of that injury, which was pretty severe, which cut his sophomore season short. Because if he is able to be the player from his rookie season and become a more consistent shooter as far as his efficiency goes, then you're looking at a nice little nucleus there. You have Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, James Wiseman, now Ausar Thompson. I like the makeup of what Detroit is doing, and Monty Williams, he's locked in there for the long haul. He's done a good job of developing players as well.
One more note, too. The first pair of brothers, Eamon and Ausar Thompson, to be selected in the top 5 in any same draft.
And they're back-to-back.
Awesome experience for that family, and we wish them the best of luck in their careers. The Orlando Magic are now on the clock. Perfect time to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel. Our NBA draft coverage is just getting underway here. We've got 5 picks down, 53 to go. Plenty of action to come here tonight during the 2023 NBA draft. Pick-by-pick analysis, insightful information, breakdowns from myself, Chase, and Nick Roloff as well. So hit that subscribe button and continue to watch our videos because we're going to have the latest news, rumors, free agency, which starts next Friday. We're going to have draft grades tonight as well. It's 100% free. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button. We're also, Chase, almost at 1,000 new subscribers tonight. If we can make that happen, we would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we had a great sub record last year. Nearly 6,000 people had subscribed to the show. Yep. Right now, 713 people have subscribed to the channel. NBA free agency, ladies and gentlemen, begins next Friday. So if you're looking for live shows, multiple videos per day that are insightful, informative, and entertaining, we have you covered here. And also, shout out to a Chat Sports legend, Rick Nyers, for the $10 Super
Warriors
Chat
today.
on Warriors Today. We'd like to see the Warriors make some more moves. Maybe not re-sign Draymond Green, sign Kuzma, and maybe Powell from Dallas. I know you're high on Dwight Powell as a cheap option. You were talking about that earlier. Kuzma would be an interesting fit if you let Draymond go.
For cheap, I like it. Look, Dwight Powell's made $10, $11 million bucks last few years. That's an overpay for what he provides. He's got limitations, especially defensively. But when you're Golden State, you're going to look for cheap contracts to fill out that roster. He's a guy that's been in a rotation as both a starter and a backup role for close to a decade now in Dallas, and not always on bad teams. He's a good role man. He's an energetic player. I think you pair him with Chris Paul in that second unit. I like the fit for cheap. And he's been the Mavs' PA, whatever word you're looking for. So he's a smart guy. He's insightful. He's a locker room fit
Players
as well.
Players Association representative.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I think he would fit in well with a win-now team like Golden State.
No, I agree. Rick, thank you so much for that $10 donation, my guy. We certainly appreciate that. Cheers to you, my brother.
Appreciate that. We got the next pick here, Chase. Anthony Black. Nick Roloff will get his thoughts in a moment. It was his number 4 overall player on the board out of Duncanville, played at Arkansas. Good size. Kind of has some Lonzo Ball to his game, similar physical makeup and playmaking ability as well.
Yeah, this is a guy who can really do it all, and I think when he plays alongside talented players who can score the basketball, you're going to see these assist numbers that we're about to show you absolutely skyrocket because he averaged around 13 points per game and 4 assists. I think that those 4 assists could double, and this is a guy who defensively has very good instincts. Has to get better as a three-point shooter. That's also why, not just the game, why he draws comps to Lonzo Ball, because the shooting form is a little bit spotty. Does have potential to be one of the better combo guards at the NBA level because of his offensive ability, but also the fact that he can score, distribute, and be a good defensive player. He is up there as one of the best defensive guards and players in this class, but the jump shot is a big concern. I don't love the form of it, but he does have a high basketball IQ. Another reason why he's linked to Lonzo Ball, 2.1 steals per game. So that goes back to what I said about his instinctual feel and his knowledge and ability to kind of read what happens next on the defensive end of the floor, Rolly.
Yeah, this is an interesting pick for a multitude of reasons for me. One, he was my best player available. I thought he actually is better than Amen and Ausar Thompson. I just love his IQ. Everything you mentioned, his defense, his feel for the game. Just if he improves that jumper, he can be truly special. But this signals something to me here, and let's deep dive to something else.
Yeah.
They now have a backcourt of Anthony Black, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, and Markelle Fultz. I expect one of them to be on the move, and I'll tell you what, it's not going to be Anthony Black. There's been a lot of rumors of the Los Angeles Lakers potentially having interest in Jalen Suggs. I would expect to see one of these Orlando guards, not named Anthony Black, be traded in the next week or so. So keep your eye out on that. But just talking about the actual fit, Black passing the ball and setting up Banchero and Franz Wagner, that's going to be a healthy trio right there.
There were reports, Rolly, that Cole Anthony is someone that Orlando would be willing to trade. Is he the guy that exits?
I don't know. I feel like it's more likely to be Jalen Suggs, as Cole Anthony is probably a better fit of a scorer off the bench. So I think Jalen Suggs would be the one to go out of those three guards in Orlando.
The Indiana Pacers are now on the clock here. Shout out to Kabat Schroeder with the $2 super chat. Is this from Chat Sports here? Appreciate that. Trey Fisher as well. Alec Compion, Big Al, Yo Dahit. Okay, appreciate that as well. Wow. Taker 610 here. Trivia, who did Portland trade to Brooklyn for Damian Lillard? Well, that hasn't happened yet, but if they were to trade Damian Lillard to Brooklyn, if Brooklyn's hell-bent on keeping Mikal Bridges here, Chase, what do you think a trade looks like? I think a signing trade involving Cam Johnson would be part of that. Dorian Finney-Smith, and then probably picks. I think that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, you're looking for players who can really move the needle. Mikal Bridges, after that trade from the Phoenix Suns, proved that he could be better than any type of player that anybody envisioned him being coming out of Villanova.
He could be a number 2 or number 3 on a title
team. He was projected to be a 3-and-D guy. Unfortunately for the Sixers, my Sixers, they traded Zaire Smith for him. Or they traded Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith. Bridges would have been great, but he goes to Phoenix as a 3-and-D guy. Then he goes to Brooklyn, develops a handle, has a pull-up jumper, able to knock down some threes. That's a guy who you can really build around. And then you have Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a great defensive player. And then Cam Johnson is a guy who can be a consistent knockdown three-point shooter. I also think that the Nets wouldn't mind moving off of Joe Harris's contract. He played great alongside James Harden, but since then, he's not been good. Lackluster shooting percentage, and also the contract is pretty awful as well. That could be a salary matcher in that deal.
We're looking to the Indiana Pacers now on the clock, but a trade is happening here. Chase, Rolly, do we have any information here? You want to hop on and fill us in here with this 7th selection?
So all that we know right now is that Bilal Coulibaly is the pick at 7, and it was going to the Washington Wizards. The Wizards were originally selecting 8. There is no word to see if the Wizards are trading the 8th pick up one spot to grab Coulibaly. You have to imagine that is the case. But this would be quite the splash for Washington to trade for pick number 7 and keep 8. But we're assuming that they're basically just switching spots. But I actually love the fit here for Coulibaly because Washington's going to have a lot of time to grow him and get better. If Coulibaly was to become the player a lot of scouts project him to be, this is a good landing spot for him as he has a lot of time to grow his game.
So look, Coulibaly has been moving up draft boards in recent weeks, but number 7, I'm not sure any of us saw that happening here, Chase. 6'6", 190, teammate of Victor Wembanyama out in France for the Metropolitan 92s, and Rolly had him number 17 on his big board. There was some chatter he could sneak into the lottery here, Chase, but he goes number 7 overall. Clearly, Washington has identified something here that they think he can become a star type of player.
I mean, look at him. He's one of the youngest players in this draft class, and he looks very, very young in this photo. Because of the hype surrounding Victor Wembanyama, a lot of people didn't realize that this guy is a pretty solid player. 53% from the floor, 34% on his threes. At just under 19 years old, he is one of the youngest players in this draft. To go to a destination like Washington, it makes sense. They don't have to play him right away. And even if he does crack that rotation for Washington, you don't have to play him a ton of minutes. Does have a good combination of height, a wingspan of 7'3", so the defensive profile can be there. The weight also makes him a pretty intriguing prospect because he does have that weight advantage as well. He does some of the little things where he can complement a Tyus Jones and a Jordan Poole. Backdoor cuts, good rebounder. He can play off ball. Did struggle with this three-point shot. He will need to improve there. I also like his positional versatility because he could play multiple positions. has that size at 6'7", and the wingspan to really play 1 through 4.
And by the way, Indiana swaps down to 8 and 2 future seconds. So not in this draft. 2 future seconds, it looks like. We'll, if those details get finalized, we will bring that to you, obviously. But Bilal Coulibaly goes to Washington. Indiana drops a spot here, Chase, to pick at number 8. And early reports that Jarace Walker is the selection here. The big out of Houston, there's been buzz recently that he's going to go top 10, and that has proven to be the case. Number 10 overall player on Rolly's big board. I think personally, and I'd love to get Rolly's analysis on this and the last pick as well, I think his best role is in a small ball 5 role. That's just my opinion in today's NBA. But we'll see what the vision is for Rick Carlisle and the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think this could be a good fit for him at the 4. I get the small ball 5 could work, but he also has a little bit of a three-point shot that he showcased at Houston that I think could be really effective in the NBA. I know there's always Miles Turner trade rumors, and I feel like he's been on the trading block for 4 straight years almost. But at Jarace Walker, Miles Turner front court, with them being at 4 and the 5, they both are unbelievably good defensively, and they both can space the floor a little bit. Those two can work in and out defending the paint, and Indiana could immediately have one of the best defensive front courts in the association. You pair that up with Halliburton running the show on offense, pick and rolls with Walker, and then pick and pops with Miles Turner sitting in that short corner. That can be a really scary trio if Walker hits. I love his defense. He's one of the best and most efficient players in the pick and roll. He's got sneaky good vision, too, in the short roll to kick it out. Walker's a really good player, very versatile, can defend. I like this pick for Indiana. I had them taking him in my final mock draft at 7. They take him here at 8. I love the fit for Indiana and Walker.
And good work by the Pacers, too. This is probably the player they identified. They get a couple of future seconds, still get the guy they want. So sliding that back a spot. So you look at 5 through 8 now. Ausar Thompson goes to Detroit. Anthony Black to Orlando. Bilal Coulibaly, teammate of Victor Wembanyama, on a trade-up for Washington. Jarace Walker goes number 8 to the Pacers. Who does that bring up, Coop? Who do we have on the clock next? The Utah Jazz at 9, and then for those watching on our Dallas Mavericks YouTube channel, number 10 coming up. They've been connected to a lot of trades, so maybe some more movement coming up in the next few minutes, Chase.
Yeah, interesting here for a couple of reasons, and then we'll focus here, or at least I will, on Walker. In today's NBA, like sometimes you don't need a guy who's the prototypical center size from back in the day of 7 foot. For Walker to be 6'7", but athletic at 250 pounds with that long wingspan of 7'3", he can survive. And the positional versatility is certainly going to help him there. The comp from Kevin O'Connor was a Larry Johnson or Carl Landry.
Interesting.
Versatile wrecking ball on defense and skilled playmaker on offense, which I think can help on the team that he's going to with the complementary playmakers around him. I thought that Rolly had some good analytics here. 0.63 points per possession, 28th percentile in isolation, and then 66th percentile on points per possession on post-up. So a little bit raw, needs to add to his game a little bit, but certainly the ability is there.
Here are the picks so far, 1 through 8. San Antonio, no surprise, Victor Wembanyama. Brandon Miller, after much debate within the Charlotte Hornets organization, they select Brandon Miller. Scoot Henderson goes to Portland. What does that mean for Damian Lillard? We will see. Amon Thompson goes to Houston at 4. Ausar Thompson goes to Detroit at 5. Anthony Black, the guard out of Arkansas, goes to Orlando at 6 with the number 7 pick. Washington selects Bilal Coulibaly, Victor Wembanyama's teammate. And then Jarace Walker goes number 8. That brings up the Utah Jazz, who are on the clock here for the 2023 NBA Draft. Let's get some more likes. I told y'all if we get to 2,000 likes, I will take another shot. Let's get to 2,000. Like the video. We still got 4,400 people watching live, so if we get to 2,000 likes, I'll take a shot. Chase will take a shot. We'll keep it moving here on our NBA Draft coverage, as we're also live on Dallas Mavericks Today. They're on deck, Chase, with the number 10 pick Golden State Warriors today as well. They've got the number 19 selection. That should be coming in the next hour or so.
Yeah, we got to beat our likes record as well. 8,700 last year, approaching 2,000 right now. Harry said we're taking some shots if you do that. If you want this to be a larger party, all you got to do is hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We could take a look at the Jazz profile if we want to. And then, Rolly, do you have some thoughts as well?
Yeah, this Jazz pick is honestly one of the most fascinating picks in this entire class because they hold a very coveted pick, number 9, and there's 2 guys on the board that make a lot of sense for Utah in Taylor Hendricks and Cam Whitmore. So I'm just very fascinated to say which way they go. They obviously have the breakout of Lauri Markkanen last year and Walker Kessler, who they received in that trade for Rudy Gobert, who is really good. Sexton's been rumored to be on the move. They also have pick number 16, so they have a chance to really capitalize here by getting an explosive athlete on the wing with Hendricks or Whitmore, and then using a pick potentially on a scoring guard at 16. I love where Utah is at. This pick will ultimately depend what Dallas does with the next pick as well. I know we're live on Mavericks Today. Do they go Dereck Lively, who's been a lot of rumors, or maybe Taylor Hendricks if he's not, or if he's available at 10 for Dallas? This is a fascinating pick that will set up a lot of the rest of the draft. Utah, Danny Ainge, what are you going to do?
What's very intriguing to me, Roy, you just alluded to it. The 2 players I had that for the Mavericks, I said if you're not going to trade the pick, one of 2 players I would like, Cam Whitmore and Taylor Hendricks. One of those guys is going to be there at 10. So if you don't get a trade offer you like if you're Dallas, then just take one of those guys because I think they can play in a rotation right away. Maybe it's not a starting caliber player, but one of those 2 players will be there for the Mavericks coming up here at number 10. Now, it does sound like that it's going to be Taylor Hendricks here at number 9 to the Utah Jazz. So Hendricks is going to go to Utah. I know the Mavs have been linked to him. Do they like Cam Whitmore enough to take him at 10, or do they opt to try and make a trade here? Obviously, next few minutes going to dictate a lot for the Mavericks' future as well. But Utah Chase is going to select Taylor Hendricks, I think one of the best 3-and-D prospects in this class.
Yeah, and speaking of that 3-and-D ability, he shot almost 40% on his 3-point tries last year.
Really good for college.
And with that size at 6'8", 7'1" wingspan, he might be the best defender in this draft class. He can really guard multiple positions, and it allows him to really contest a lot of shots going up against multiple players of different size profiles. And I like his footwork. I think that he's very agile. He played at UCF, so it's not a basketball powerhouse by any means. So don't let that overshadow the fact that this guy is a really good player. And what I always look for in draft prospects, it's the jump shot and the fluidity of it. And Taylor Hendricks had that at UCF, probably the best 3-and-D player in this draft. And I think that 3-and-D players outside of wings, very important components to a basketball organization.
Yeah, look, Chase, you don't find a lot of 40% college three-point shooters because college offenses aren't the most fluid typically. Now, there's some exceptions, of course, but for a guy at a mid-major at UCF to shoot 40% from 3, be a 15-point scorer, it's not like he's taking just 1 or 2 threes per game. Rolly, I know you were high on Hendricks. I liked him as well. Host of Mavericks Today. If he was there at 10, I would have been very tempted, so he's off the board now. We'll talk about Cam Whitmore in a second, but how do you like the fit with Hendricks? I feel like Utah's building a nice little young nucleus.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of positional versatility with Kessler at the center, Markkanen at the 4, and then Hendricks at the 3. Hendricks is 6'8" with a 7'1" wingspan, but he's very fluid, very quick laterally. Hendricks will be a lockdown defender and can easily slide in that 3 role alongside Markkanen and Kessler.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see how that fits. I think Utah's recovered really well after trading Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, obviously getting that massive haul for Gobert, especially this past offseason. All right, Mavericks fans, the Dallas Mavericks are on the clock. If you're watching Mavericks Today, hit that subscribe button. If you're a Mavericks fan on our main chat sports stream, subscribe at youtube.com/MavsTV. We'll try and get that link in the live chat for you guys. 23,000 subs just around the corner. We're 250 away. I'm tempted by Cam Whitmore, Chase. There's been a lot of chatter. Do you make a trade with Atlanta? They move up to 10. You drop to 15. Some sort of swap involving either John Collins or Clint Capella from the Mavericks side, either Tim Hardaway Jr. or Davis Bertans. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens here with the Dallas Mavericks. And let us know, Mavs fans, would you trade this pick? Type Y for yes and for no. To me, it's either Whitmore or trade the pick.
Yeah, and how does Jaden Ivey, their draft pick from last year, Jaden Hardy, how does he factor into their plans? Because he has some offensive ability and a scoring
About the second half of the year, he proved to me moving forward he can be a bench scorer.
Yeah. So does that alter your plans if you want to go combo guard here? Or do you just go BPA and go with a guy like Cam Whitmore, who coming out of high school was such a highly touted prospect?
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting. I mean, some of the other players available, we can look at some of the top available. You got Keyonte George. There's been a lot of Dereck Lively buzz. Apparently the Hawks really like him. And to me, if I'm Atlanta, if I love Dereck Lively, then why do you need to keep Clint Capella? Like, that's just your Clint Capella replacement. So, you know, some kind of combination where you trade 10 to get Capella, maybe you ship out Hardaway, and you get 15 back as well. I think that would be very, very fascinating. But let us know. I'll get some shout-outs on our Mavericks stream here. Would you trade the pick? Nick says yes. Sean says yes. Skeel says yes. Cannon says keep the pick. Sean says trade the pick. The Kang, Juan Garcia, WG Shorts says trade the pick. So we'll see. We know, Chase, that they want to try and win right now with Luka, and obviously with the intent of re-signing Kyrie Irving as well.
Yeah, and you need to get better defensively. So I think that could factor into this draft decision as well, because Luka and Kyrie aren't willing or elite defenders by any means. And in trading away Dorian Finney-Smith, he was that 3-and-D guy. He was a player who could defend at a really high level. You lost that, and their defensive intangibles just went downhill right after that trade, so they could decide to address defense here as well.
There's pros and cons with Whitmore if you opt to go him here. He's very young. That's, you know, some would view that as a con, but the pro side of that is, like, he's not even 19 yet. Like, if he can play right away but then still have a ton of room to grow with his athletic profile, like, he could be an excellent 3-and-D player with a year or two of maturing here. So that's why I would be tempted. I get the whole trying to expedite with Luka Doncic. I get all of that, but Cam Whitmore is still an appealing player for me here for Dallas. And with this pick taking a little bit of time here, you got to think Cuban and Nico Harrison are on the phone seeing what's out there in a potential trade with another team. Rolly, Coop, if either of you guys want to chime in here, Coop, who helps me out with Mavericks Today, what are you feeling here?
Yeah, I was telling Rolly that I think because it's taken so long here, I have a feeling that they're trying to trade this pick.
The phones are ringing.
The phones are ringing. They're on the clock, taking the best offer, and I think this pick will end up being traded, but we'll see.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting. And look, this is really a domino effect, Chase. Like, whatever they do here is, like, really kind of pivots the direction of where Dallas is going this year and beyond, because look, the reality is if you have another bad season where you miss the playoffs or are one and done, I don't think it's a given it would happen next offseason, but it really ramps up the pressure of, like, Luka's not going to be like Dirk and just stick around no matter what. Like, he's too competitive. At some point, he will want to go chase championships elsewhere if he doesn't think Dallas can be that spot.
You have to find a way to make him happy. Let's be real. He's an emotional player who lets those emotions be known, and we're hearing now
that
Dallas Mavericks are trading out of this pick. They are trading with Oklahoma City, so I wonder if they're going to move back. And also, we're hearing it's Cason Wallace.
So that's with the 12th pick. Can you get Kenrich Williams? I'd be in. Bench wing? Then maybe you dangle 12 as well? We'll see.
Yeah.
OKC, I got to assume this includes the number 12 pick, which is coming up in a second. So Cason Wallace to the Oklahoma City Thunder at number 10 overall. Davis Bertans in the trade. And, hey, you shed that salary, I'm in. Like, that has been a tough contract for the Mavs to absorb as a part of that Kristaps Porzingis trade that shipped him to Washington a year and a half ago. And now you get out of that contract. And OKC, obviously, Chase, a young team, they could afford to absorb a deal like that.
This is massive for Dallas to get rid of that contract because Bertans had a base salary and cap hit this upcoming season of $17 million.
For a guy that's not regularly in the rotation.
And didn't really play at all the back half of the year. So you get rid of him, this immediately helps you in NBA free agency. You're able to appease Luka Doncic, hopefully build up that roster a little bit. That's a lot of money to bring in a marquee, rotational, starting caliber player.
Yeah, and we'll see what that means for the Mavericks. But in the meantime, let's talk about Cason Wallace real quickly here, Chase and Rolly. Rolly's number 14 overall player, 6'3.5", 195 pounds. He goes to Oklahoma City. I find this interesting because your two best players are guards, and SGA and Josh Giddey. So Chase, Rolly, is this a come off the bench, energetic type of guard. How does he fit here, X's and O's? We'll start with Rolly here.
Yeah, I think it is exactly what you just said, Harrison. Come off the bench guard who's going to provide a lot of energy. I mentioned Anthony Black as the best defensive guard, or at least one of them in this draft class. You know who's right there with them? Cason Wallace. Wallace brings a lot of energy, a lot of defense. He can guard the best opposing guard that you're going to play and let SGA play more relaxed on defense, I suppose, if they play together. Wallace, like you mentioned, a little bit of a smaller guard, but I think he fits well off the bench here for Oklahoma City. And I think they're just in the market of acquiring talent. They don't really care about fit at this point. Just get the best talent they can possibly have, and they'll figure out where they play and how they play later.
More details on the trade from Shams Charania. Obviously, Dallas will get number 12 here, so they're going to be back on the clock here in a moment after the 11th pick here. And a TPE, is that a taxpayer's exception? Trade player exception. So they get a trade exception in the deal. The question is, how much is that exception? We'll see if we get that detail here. But Dallas going to be back on the clock at number 12 here, Chase. Any thoughts on Wallace before we shift the conversation back to the Mavericks here?
Look, there's a long list of Kentucky guards who have been somewhat underwhelming at the college level, but then end up playing really, really well at the NBA level. Jamal Murray is one. Tyrese Maxey is another. Emmanuel Quickley was in the running to win Sixth Man of the Year. Cason Wallace has that type of ability. I want to see him be a little bit better off the dribble, and that's something that if he grows that area of his game, with all of the playmakers on that Thunder team, that'll help him because it just makes the creation aspect of this game a little bit easier, which has been a little bit of a struggle. Kevin O'Connor kind of compared him to a smaller version of Drew Holiday because he does have that defensive ability. Drew Holiday was a late bloomer. He started his career with Philadelphia, showed some flashes, then after that really became a two-way threat and legit player with the Milwaukee Bucks, and a huge component of them winning the NBA championship a couple of years ago. The athleticism of Cason Wallace is there. He's very quick with some really good feet, and if he can become a better creator and create more off the dribble, that just adds another dangerous component to his game.
By the way, hot seat Woj, as he says, the Mavericks are trading number 10 in Davis Bertans to the Thunder for number 10. It's actually number 12.
Yes.
Adrian Wojnarowski.
Edit that tweet, Woj.
Yeah, who do we have
no
on?
No St. Bonaventure slander over here, Harry.
Listen,
take it easy.
You either get it right or you get it wrong. That's at the end of the day. By the way, I wonder, does that mean the Mavs could have the full mid-level exception now?
If Bertans, if they get off Bertans' salary and they're under the tax, yes, unless they use that trade exception on another player.
So that's interesting. So that could help give you some more targets in free agency if you are the Mavericks. Who won this trade, Dallas or OKC? I think it's a win-win. OKC clearly identified this player that they wanted to go up and get. Maybe they feared that the team in front of them was going to select him here at number 11, and Dallas sheds that contract and dumps.
And guys, this is also a trade that can't be completed until July 6th. So this will be a trade that's completed in the first week of free agency.
So technically the Mavs are drafting Wallace because the NBA is kind of weird with all of that, and that trade will be finalized here in a couple of weeks. So who do we have on the clock here? Dallas is going to be on the clock at number 12. We have Orlando again here at number 11. They made a selection earlier. We'll kind of recap the picks up to this point in time, but do they go Cam Whitmore here? We'll see. Recapping the picks here, Chase. Victor Wembanyama to the Spurs at number 1. Brandon Miller goes number 2 to Charlotte. Scoot Henderson, number 3 to Portland. We'll see what that means for Damian Lillard. Amon Thompson, Ausar Thompson, they go to the Rockets and Pistons, respectively. First pair of brothers to go top 5 in a draft. Cool for that family. Anthony Black, the guard out of Arkansas, goes to Orlando. Bilal Coulibaly, the wing out of the Metropolitans, 92. Victor Wembanyama's teammate. He goes to Washington. They traded up from 8. Indiana falls back to 9, falls back to 8, gets a couple of future seconds. They get Jarace Walker. Taylor Hendricks goes to Utah at number 9, and then in a trade that technically isn't finalized till July 6th, but that's kind of a foregone conclusion. Cason Wallace in a trade down from Dallas. Oklahoma City goes up and gets him, and now Orlando is back on the clock after making their selection earlier, Chase.
Orlando, pretty interesting position, right? Because now they have a surplus of guards, and Rolly and I talked about it. Does this mean now that they're going to trade away a Jalen Suggs, a Markelle Fultz, some player on that roster, a Cole Anthony. I think that a trade of one of those could happen just because they're overloaded at that guard spot. And now, where do you look? You have Wagner as your wing, Paolo Banchero as your wing, and Wendell Carter Jr., a fabulous front court player. Do you look to fortify the front court depth? Do you bring in a defensive level player at that wing spot? Ideally, you get a 3-and-D. Rolly, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think this could be an interesting spot for Cam Whitmore, but I actually lean shooting here, Chase and Harry. I would not be surprised if Gradey Dick's the selection here. I think he could play the 3, he could play the 2 in certain situations. Gradey Dick would be an excellent fit in Orlando when you really think about it. Anthony Black, their first pick, really good defensive guard with high IQ that can distribute the ball but lacks in shooting. You got Paolo Banchero at the 4, Carter at the 5, and then Franz Wagner at the 3. So that 2 spot could be somewhere they look. I think I've got a rumor in my ear here that they're taking Jett Howard at 11, which I will be on record saying this is the most Orlando Magic pick of all time. What a bad decision in Orlando. Jett Howard at 11. What a mistake.
Shout out to the Magic. They always overcomplicate things. We crossed 2,000 likes, Chase. So
yes.
Bottoms up. Another shot down the hatch here. Let's get to 3,000. Every 1,000 likes, we're taking a shot. Appreciate all the love and support on our live coverage here. Here on our NBA draft coverage, we're live on Chat Sports, Dallas Mavericks Today, Golden State Warriors Today, and with Jett Howard going number 11, we'll get some analysis on that pick from Chase and Rolly. The Mavericks are back on the clock as well.
It's going to be Cam Whitmore, as you were talking about.
Listen, man, if there's not a trade you like, just do it. Just make the pick. He's the best player available. I also would not be surprised if they took Dereck Lively, which I would not love, but they do want a rim protector, which is something he can do.
Yeah, subscribe to our Mavericks channel with the Dallas Mavericks on the clock. By the way, we're announcing these picks prior to ESPN. Another reason why you got to subscribe to the channel and kick it with us here, because we have you covered all throughout the NBA draft, but also an NBA free agency, which begins next Friday. As for Jett Howard, a little bit of a reach, in my opinion, but also according to our NBA draft expert, Nick Roloff, who had Jett Howard as his 28th overall prospect. So he goes 17 spots prior to where Rolly thought he was going to go. He is 6'8", 215 pounds. He is the son of Juwan Howard for a Michigan team that really lacked expectations last year. 14 points per game, only 2 assists. He shot 41% from the field, just shy of 37% from 3 on 7 attempts. So he is a willing shooter from outside and a very good shooter at that with a lot of volume. Even though he did shoot a lot of times from distance, he was efficient in those opportunities. So, Rolly, you might not like the pick, but you did say look out for a three-point shooter here. Jett Howard does fit that category.
Yeah, I do want to add this. They did look to a more shooting player, like I mentioned, but I think one thing is coming very, very clear for the Orlando Magic's front office and where they want to go with their team, and it's they just want size and versatility.
Yeah.
Black 6'6" at point guard, Banchero at 6'10" playing power forward. Franz Wagner handles the rock at, I think he's 6'8", 6'9", and then now Jett Howard at 6'8" in another shooter. Orlando clearly has a type, and it's tall guys who can play a multitude of positions. The only thing about Jett Howard, I think he struggles a lot on the defensive end. He does not have good awareness. I talked about this earlier. He does not have spatial awareness or rotating prowess, I should say. He doesn't anticipate the ball well defensively. Can shoot the rock, but I don't love his defense.
Let us know how you feel about the pick. Type L for love or H for hate. We'll get some shout-outs. And a couple of Mavs notes now that they're on the clock. Kevin O'Connor kind of just throwing this out there with the Mavericks dumping Davis Bertans. They have more cap flexibility. Draymond Green, ? That's Kevin O'Connor's thought. We'll see how that plays out if Golden State re-signs him or if he is considering going elsewhere. Bobby Marks, who's an excellent cap analyst for ESPN, he mentions that the cap-clearing move of Bertans leaves the Mavericks with $86 million in guaranteed salary. That number jumps to $93 million if Reggie Bullock's contract becomes guaranteed, which, quite frankly, I think it does. It's an affordable contract, 3-and-D player. However, Dallas is over the $136 million cap because of Kyrie Irving's free agent hold. So even though you dump Bertans' contract, you still don't have all this flexibility to make a ton of moves, but moving Bertans does at least get you closer.
Yeah, and I think it's important because he wasn't even playing. He was occupying $17 million on that salary, and he was just way too inconsistent of a player. He kind of signed that deal with Washington at a time when all of these NBA contracts were crazy.
Well, he's coming off a career year, too.
And
so
coming off that career year, but under this new CBA, deals like that probably are not going to happen.
Yeah, so we'll see what the Mavericks do here now at 12. Look, if you're keeping the pick, to me, I would just take Cam Whitmore. I think he's the best player available. I think if they're going to take someone else, it's Dereck Lively. We'll bring in producer Coop, who chips in with me on Mavericks Today here. Coop, and oh boy, we're getting a report.
Oh boy.
Here. It's going to be Dereck Lively. And
You knew it.
I just felt it in my bones.
It was too obvious. It was too obvious.
I think I like the pick. I'm a little disappointed.
Look, you like the pick, but you're disappointed.
You need.
I wanted a bigger
Explain
trade.
that to me.
Let's go half glass full. The half glass full is you need a rim protecting big when your backcourt is Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. You just do. He provides that. There's no doubt. He cannot shoot. He is like his absolute ceiling. Coop is what? Rudy Gobert? And look, if he comes Gobert, hey, cool.
If he's Gobert, that's fantastic.
Awesome.
I was
But,
going
like,
to say Kevon Looney.
Yeah,
he's bigger than Looney.
I think his ceiling is what from NBA draft experts is Tyson Chandler. That's what people are comparing him to.
I'll
And
say
look,
this.
if he becomes Chandler, great, but is he going to be that this year? Like, if you're trying to win right away, I don't think this pick really helps you do that at a high
It's
level.
sneaky lazy because there was a lot of reports about the Mavs wanting Clint Capella. I see that type of player in Lively where he basically is just a rim protector and lob threat, and that's it.
And I'd rather just have the proven guy who's done that.
I see that. But you do get him on a cheaper contract, so that is one reason to stick with Lively instead of Capella if you think it's similar.
Another note, Tim McMahon says the Mavs will now have the full mid-level exception as well as a $17 million trade exception.
That's from the Bertans salary.
From the Bertans salary. So they can absorb kind of a mid-tier type of contract from another team. I'll be curious to see if they're able to do that. That is appealing for Dallas now because certain free agent targets that would have been out of their range might now be in their range because instead of just having $7.5 million on the taxpayers mid-level, now they've got $12.4 million, which that $5 million does make a lot of difference. But Dereck Lively, the selection here. Let's get into some more analysis. 7'1", 215. Look, he's long. He can block shots. He's athletic. It's not flashy. And look, I'm not always the flashy guy, but I agree with you. Like, getting athletic wings is so valuable, and you still need to get better wings if you're Dallas. Cam Whitmore sitting there at 12 seemed like great value, but they're going to go with the rim protector here in Lively, and I will say this. He's, outside of Wembanyama, the best blocking or shot blocker in this draft.
In the words of Coop, I kind of like it, but I'm disappointed, which was absolutely hilarious. Love you, Coop. For Dereck Lively, a guy who can kind of do everything, right? 5 points per game, 5 rebounds. So around the rim, he's able to finish. He's a good rebounder. With more time on the floor, the production will increase. 2.5 blocks per game. So he's a pretty good rim protector. And on those field goal opportunities, nearly 66%. When he went to Duke coming out of Philly, everybody thought that he was going to be the superstar. He failed to reach those lofty expectations. Dribble handoffs, though, crash into the cup, off those lob plays, I think Coop and Harrison can agree. He is intriguing in that manner, and I think that Rolly makes a good point. As a guy who's a lot cheaper than Clint Capella with a similar game, that type of player can work on this Mavericks team. And I think what's really important here, at that final level of the defense, once you get past Kyrie and Luka, which isn't hard to do, he can be that rim protector and that defensive presence that you really, really need.
Look, if he can be a day one starting five that protects the rim, it's a good selection. If you're able to find a 3-and-D player. Now, maybe you're able to do that with the full mid-level exception, $12.4 million. Maybe you can find that player in free agency. Maybe, Grant Williams and someone like that. I think he's more of a stretch 4 personally. But we'll have to wait and see. Grade the pick, A, B, C, D, or F. It's like a B, B minus. Like to me, it's a higher floor, lower ceiling pick. Like I think he probably ends up being a decent level starting center in this league, but I'm not sure he changes the trajectory of a franchise.
Here's what I'll say. I think the Mavs tried to find their starting center last year when they signed JaVale McGee to a 3-year deal. that was the most disastrous signing in free agency. I don't care how much it costs. The Mavs found their starting center today for the next 5 years at least. So I think that's a nice, consolation. Now they still have work to do. Now they have the full mid-level to use, and they have the $17 million trade exception that they can find a decent player with as well.
And look, maybe they're able to do what they did with Bertans. Do they try and shed Hardaway's contract? Do they try and move Reggie Bullock? We'll have to wait and see, but no second-round picks, so unless they move one of those pieces, it appears that they are going to be done for the night. What do Mavs fans feel? I see an A++, and the next comment is an F. So that kind of feels right on point here. Where
that's basically Coop.
Yeah,
I kind of like it.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Coop, is this bigger shambles than the KP trade?
Oh no way, way less shambles.
This is something. We still need wing defenders. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Hit the subscribe button on Mavericks Today. We're giving you authenticity, news, rumors, draft reaction. We'll have draft grades at the end of the night. Even if the Mavs don't do anything else, we'll have more analysis on this pick and maybe what's to come for this franchise as it's a massive offseason for Dallas. So hit that subscribe button and stay on the know with everything around the Mavericks. The Toronto Raptors are on the clock, and this feels so Toronto. I mean, they can just take Cam Whitmore. I mean, how nice if you're a Raptors fan.
They've done a great job, at developing players. Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, a guy like Chris Boucher. They've done a really good job. Precious Achiuwa is a guy who I think is a marquee rotational player on a really solid team. Cam Whitmore there would make a lot of sense.
Youngest player in the draft.
Youngest
already
player
has
in the
good
draft.
talent.
Developmental project. You don't have to play him too much. For a winning team that's going to come up here on the order, you're looking at the Pelicans, Atlanta, Utah, Los Angeles Lakers. If Gradey Dick goes to Los Angeles, that's a great fit right there.
Yeah.
But Kobe Bufkin, Jordan Hawkins, I think is criminally underrated. I would have thought about taking him as a top 10 pick because I think he's going to be an elite shooter for a really long time. So some really good players still left on the board here.
Yeah, and we'll see where these guys all go. You got Toronto, New Orleans, Atlanta, Utah, and L.A. coming up. And I think some players that I still really like sitting there on the board. So we'll see what the Raptors do. I mean, they're kind of in a tricky spot, too. Do you bring back Fred VanVleet? There was that report from Chris Haynes that Pascal Siakam, if he were to get traded, would not commit to a contract extension with whatever team traded for him. He would prefer to stay in Toronto. So that makes me think he will stay in Toronto unless there's a change of heart because that value just isn't going to be there if he's not going to commit to an extension. So maybe the Raptors do just run it back and add a player here that they can add to that rotation.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then you're kind of looking at some playoff level teams here. I'm intrigued by what the Jazz are doing as far as building a foundation there.
I like what they're doing.
Atlanta Hawks, what happens with Trae Young? Do they try to trade him? Do they trade John Collins? He's been involved in trade rumors the last couple of years. New Orleans Pelicans, they didn't trade up after it was reported that they were looking to trade up to 2 or 3. Are they going to keep Zion? Are they going to keep Brandon Ingram? Remaining questions there with free agency set to start a week from tomorrow.
And if it's true that, according to reports, that Zion hasn't even had a lot of communication with the franchise, doesn't want to be there, then I think you just have to move him. I mean, it's just at some point, you have to move on if he doesn't want to be there and he hasn't even been a player that's available. So interesting selection for New Orleans coming up at number 14. Shout out to Trey Fisher for a super chat here. They're trading Alec Campione for Mike Bowman. I don't know this reference here. So Trey, appreciate that. Lion
Fighter. Real one, roll call.
Is this one of your boys?
Yeah, it's one of my guys.
We'll take this one then.
Did Tobias Harris get traded yet? He's trending on Twitter. I talked about him today. That video's doing well. Trade Tobias Harris for Paul George, and I'll be very, very happy, even though that's very unlikely to happen, but one can dream. Lion Fighter, we appreciate you. If you want to send in a donation, here's our Super Chat menu for tonight. $1, shout out. $5 will give you a beer cheers. $10 will talk about your squad. $20 is shot time. And $100 beer bong or a shotgun. Our Super Chat MVP is Paul Price. He sent in a total of $500. He is set to win this basketball that we are going to sign for him. So Paul Price, we're going to give you information soon to claim your prize. If anybody wants to match him, we'll get another basketball and send it to you, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, look, Paul's going to get this one, but If anyone wants to jump to the plate and bring to the table what
Mike Dibble, where you at?
Yeah, Dibs. I know you're fired up about Brandon Miller, but listen, let's party. Let's make it happen here on NBA draft coverage. So I'm gonna hop off here in just a moment. Chase Sr. and Nick Roloff are gonna continue our coverage here. I'll be back here in just a few minutes here. But the Toronto Raptors on the clock. Real quick, Chase, where are you looking here? To me, Whitmore's the obvious choice.
Yeah, I think Cam Whitmore makes a lot of sense just because that organization is in a spot where they can afford to draft a developmental player. They're kind of in that fringe area of either trying to win now or rebuilding to a certain degree. Of course, a lot of it comes down to what happens with OG Anunoby and what happens with Pascal Siakam. Siakam did say as he enters the final year of his contract, if he gets traded somewhere else, he doesn't want to re-sign because he wants to stay with Toronto. Is that a leverage play? He's seen his career really blossom with Toronto, which has been a player development factory. Rolly, what do you like for Toronto right here?
Yeah, it feels very interesting that they have not made this selection yet. They've been on the clock for quite a bit here, Chase. Kind of screams to me potential trade opportunity, like who is trying to trade up with Toronto for pick 13. Cam Whitmore is someone who could be very coveted right now. I mean, I had him in my final mock draft. I took the swing on Detroit, potentially taking him at 5, and now we're here at 13. So I will have to see what Toronto does. But the Toronto Raptors are on the clock. But let us know your favorite team. Shout out your favorite team in the comment section. Spam it. And after 10 to 15 seconds, we'll stop, see which one we see first, and talk about them. So shout out your favorite team.
So we see Trey Fisher, Heat. Ralphie, Miami, Heat.
Ooh, we
love
love
that.
that.
Brian Gonzalez saying, hey, Nick. Joe Linden, 76ers. We have Mike Bowe, Miami Heat. Let's do this. We'll count down from 10, and the first team that we see, we will talk about that squad. So 10 seconds starting right now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. First team I see, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Interesting
team here are the Milwaukee Bucks. We had a $10 super chat come in as well. We'll hit that here in a little while. For Milwaukee, what happens with Chris Middleton? I threw out this idea earlier that if you let Chris Middleton go, do you try to trade for Damian Lillard? Him as a match with Giannis Antetokounmpo could be very, very dangerous in what is set to be a loaded Eastern Conference. No picks in the first round. Only pick is at number 58. That is the final pick of this draft. And last year, didn't really have an overwhelmingly crazy draft, but Milwaukee certainly in an interesting spot because of Chris Middleton opting out of that $40 million player option.
I mean, it's fascinating because I don't think Chris Middleton's going to fetch a $40 million per year contract in free agency, and I don't really think anyone believes that. So why would he do that? There's a lot of rumors of him potentially returning to Milwaukee on a team-friendly deal. I could absolutely see that. Maybe Chris Middleton, coming off a pretty serious injury, instead of wanting to play one more year, wants to just take that multi-year deal right now because he could potentially see it as his last opportunity to get a bag in free agency on multi-years. So maybe that's why he opted out. You mentioned, Chase, they don't have a lot of ways to upgrade their roster through the draft. They have pick 58, which is the final pick in this draft. Who are they going to use that on? I know, actually, funny enough, everybody has been mocking Amani Bates, the former number 1 overall recruit, to go 58 to the Milwaukee Bucks. But so they don't have a way to upgrade their team through the draft, so they're going to have to look to free agency. I mean, Brook Lopez is a free agent. He's going to cost a pretty penny to retain as well. So Middleton, Brook Lopez, it's going to be interesting to see what the Milwaukee Bucks do to keep this team going on an upward trajectory after getting bounced in the first round by the 8-seeded Miami Heat.
So let's go back to the Dallas Mavericks here because they had somewhat of a controversial selection of Dereck Lively out of Duke, and continue to shout out your favorite team. Tim McMahon said that general manager Nico Harrison called rebounding and rim protection the Mavs' top needs. The question is whether Lively will be ready to contribute immediately. He was expected to contribute in big fashion last year at Duke and didn't really, so that is going to be a pressing question. I am in agreement with Nico Harrison that rebounding and rim protection were certainly massive needs for Dallas.
Yeah, and you're right. Nico Harrison's right. Everyone knew what the biggest need for the Dallas Mavericks was, I mean, their front court was a bit of a joke last year. Coop mentioned it. Harrison mentioned it about JaVale McGee signing that 3-year deal. That's not working out. They had Christian Wood, who they traded for.
He's a bum.
That didn't work out either, as Coop is out here venting his frustrations with that front court. So Dereck Lively, is he going to be able to help step in and be that defensive anchor for Dallas? I think he will be. Now, is it going to hit in year one? Who knows, as we do have the 13th pick for the Toronto Raptors. No leaks, oddly enough, and it is going to be Gradey Dick, the guard/forward out of Kansas, goes 13th overall to the Toronto Raptors. Brett says the Dick is in.
The Dick is in, and the Dick is headed north of the border to the Toronto Raptors. I like this pick for Toronto. And we were talking moments ago about how they do such a good job of developing players, and Gradey Dick is a player who I think is going to be able to get minutes right from the jump. Really good shooter, might be the best three-point shooter in this draft class. What Christian Braun provided the Denver Nuggets last year, I think Dick is going to be able to do the same thing, and I'm not saying that because they're both white boys. 6'6".
Mike! Oh, wow. Mike Dibble! Spam your mics in the chat!
Let's go, Mike! The ball and the dick.
Oh, Mike Dibble, have a day! Holy
that's
shit.
2 500s. We might need 2 balls with the dick.
Oh, my God.
We might need 2 balls with the dick.
Holy shit.
Wow.
New rule, if you reach 500, you get a ball.
Dibble, you're a real one. We love you, Dibble.
Is
People send in
incredible.
$500 super chats, you get free balls signed by us. Back
Everyone
to
loves
Dick.
nice balls delivered in a nice package.
Oh, man, it's hard to regroup after that. My jumper and the high release of it, very similar to Gradey Dick, and that high release jumper makes it a difficult shot to block. He's sneaky athletic. Rolly, I don't know if he has like the bounce and the twitchiness of a Christian Braun, but he can finish really around the rim at a high level.
Yeah, Gradey Dick, more than just a shooter, which people might not realize about Gradey Dick. He's got that high release, like you mentioned. He's got the highest release in this draft class, and it's very difficult for people to defend him. I had him as my 9th overall prospect, 4th wing in this class. I mean, the shot is just so repeatable, and that allows him to pump fake, and then attack closeouts to the rim. And with a 6'6" build, 6'9" wingspan, it allows him to go over defenders, finish at the rim. He can dunk it surprisingly. You don't think when he's driving inside he'll be able to throw it down, but he absolutely can. I think there's a lot of Duncan Robinson and Klay Thompson in him, the way he could be used in the half court. You look at his numbers from last year, 14 a game, 40% three-point shooting. He was the second leading man on that Kansas team, who was a top 5 team in the country for most of the night, or most of the season, excuse me. Gradey Dick is going to be able to slide in and be effective right away for the Toronto Raptors. And if they do try to run it back, you could just picture Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Boucher, and Precious Achiuwa, and then you got Dick able to hit the 3 from beyond the arc. Coop's got to grow up a little bit over here. He'll be able to be effective in this league. It was going to be interesting to see how far Gradey Dick fell. I liked him at 11 for Orlando, but they passed. Doesn't fall too far. Toronto scoops him up with 13.
He's just a win-now player who enters a win-now type of culture. And I like the debate here of whether or not it's Jordan Hawkins or Gradey Dick as the best three-point shooter in this class. I think it's close. I think it's Hawkins because I just like his game a little bit more. I also like how he can get to his spots on the floor. I also like your comps, really, of a Duncan Robinson, Bojan Bogdanovic. You also threw out the possibility of maybe a Klay Thompson in the half court if he's coming off some of those screens and off-ball action.
That's how I expect him to be used. He'll be very active off the ball, whether it be getting set for pin downs where he could come up, cutting around the rim, curling around a screen. They'll be able to use Gradey Dick in a multitude of ways, and he'll just be an absolute weapon. Like, realistically, when you think of Duncan Robinson and Klay Thompson at their peaks, they are the most effective when they draw attention. I mean, you just saw it sometimes in the finals where defenses would blitz Duncan Robinson off of a dribble handoff or a screen, and then that allows someone else to be open on the offensive end. So shooters have a lot of ways to impact the game. Dick will be able to fit in nicely with Toronto. And as we get pick number 14 in and the shooters go back-to-back, I hate to go off Gradey Dick, but grade the Dick pick for us. A, B, C, D, or F. Grade the Dick pick. Everyone likes a nice Dick pick, so let us know in the
Gradey Dick
comment
has been
section.
selected by the Raptors at number 13, so now we ask you to grade the Dick pick. A, B, C, D, or F. Let us know in the comments.
As you do grade that pick, we have the next pick to close out the lottery. The New Orleans Pelicans select Jordan Hawkins, the guard out of UConn, the two best shooters in this draft. Gradey Dick, Jordan Hawkins go back-to-back to close out the lottery, 13 and 14. I love this pick for New Orleans. I could talk in depth about Hawkins' playmaking ability, his shooting ability, his finishing ability. I love me some Jordan Hawkins, and he will fit nicely next to Brandon Ingram and Zion if they come back nicely.
Well, dude, how about this? You now have Trey Murphy and Jordan Hawkins on the same team. That's a lot of three-point shooters right there, and proficient three-point shooters as well. Like, Jordan Hawkins, excellent three-point shooter, as we just talked about. I think he's the best in this draft class. Trey Murphy last year was great for New Orleans.
I mean, this team has a lot of talent, and I expect them to be one of the best teams in the West next year, regardless of Zion Williamson. Just let me run through the roster for the New Orleans Pelicans. You now have Jordan Hawkins. You now have Zion. You still have Brandon Ingram, Valanciunas. Coop is showing me the Mavericks are very active in trade discussions for that $17 million trade exception, so we'll have to see there. But going back to the Pelicans, you also got C.J. McCollum, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado. There's a lot of talent on this New Orleans team, and they'll be ready to compete. And this is a win-now selection. Hawkins, winning pedigree at UConn, coming off a national title, second-best player on that team, absolute shooter, 16 a game. And one thing I really like about Jordan Hawkins, Chase, and I semi-mentioned it already, just like Gradey Dick, he's got a lot of athleticism that people don't understand. If you go back to that March Madness run, he would try to bang on dudes' heads at the rim. He would be really good. He's a versatile player. The question to me is his defense will be able to fit, but if you've got Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, and Trey Murphy next to you, defense doesn't really matter that much.
Oh, man, we're 14 picks in. We're getting off the rails. Mike Dibble with the $480 super chat. Coop and Harrison, here is your pick-me-up. I hope everyone signs the ball at Chat Sports. I am happy to tie with Big Money Paul. This is a total of $500, by the way. Love y'all. Drink a bunch. Love the... What else did he say? Love the Miller pick and have a great draft. Charlotte Hornets fan is Mike Dibble. That's why he loves the Brandon Miller pick. One thing we know, very, very good shooter, headed to Charlotte. And you look at our Super Chat battle here. Because Dibble sent in the $480, we beat last year's total, $1,200 to $826. Thank you all so much for all of your support. And we definitely have to do some drinking here on the show. As soon as Harrison comes back on, I'll get some of my drinks ready. Going to use the bathroom before that. And then we'll get things popping with the $480 super chat. So thank you so much to Mike Dibble for that. You know what? I have a beer here. So I'll just shotgun a beer right here.
Where else do you
legend
get
Mike
the
Dibble.
NBA coverage that we give you the analysis of every pick, of every free agency move, every trade move, and then you get the drinking that Chase Sr. is about to put on you. Watch this shotgun. This is going to be generational type stuff here. Look at the quickness on this shotgun. Unbelievable.
That wasn't sub 4 seconds, bro.
Hey, got a lot to go here tonight. A lot left in the tank. So, okay, Mike Dibble and Big Money Paul Price, you are the winners of our basketball. So we're actually going to get you both a basketball. We're all going to sign it here at Chat Sports, but we need you to claim your prize. A couple of ways for you to do that. Twitter, at Chase_Senior. Instagram at Chase_Senior. You can send me a message on either one of those social media pages, or you can email me chase@chatsports.com. When you reach out, send me your address, and we'll sign the balls. We'll get it sent to you, and that's how you can claim your prize. So, once again, Mike Dibble and Paul Price to claim your prize. Hit me up on Twitter or Instagram, or shoot me an email, chase@chatsports.com. Also, make sure you subscribe to the show. Who else is shotgun and beers but giving you some great NBA draft analysis like Rolly, myself, Harrison Graham, Jeffrey Cooperstein, as well as Jack Lauderay. So hit that sub button because NBA free agency does begin a week from tomorrow. We're going to be going live all next week, all throughout that free agency period. Hit that sub button. We have you covered for the best draft content and free agency content right here at Chat Sports. All right, Kobe Bufkin, as we are officially halfway through this first round of the 2023 NBA Draft. He is going to the Atlanta Hawks, second Michigan player taken here, just under 20 years old, 6'5", 187. Rolla, you had him as your 8th ranked guard, your 15th overall player. So a couple of instances tonight in which you've been spot on where your players have gone right where you've slotted them to go.
Yeah, Dereck Lively was the first one, Kobe Bufkin being the second. And he provides a lot. And our nice boss, James Yoder, did not like the misinformation I was providing on Jett Howard when he was selected at 11th overall. I will redeem myself here with Kobe Bufkin because this kid is an absolute stud. 14 points a game, 48% from the field, 35.5% from three. A lot of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in him. Bufkin is very pesky while defending the ball. He's got great length as a guard, 6'4" with a 6'8" wingspan. Great feel for the game. Shows with his defensive prowess, jumping passing lanes, creating havoc on the offensive end. He operates within the arc. He will need to work on that three-point shooting. He shot 35% this past season, but there is room for improvement. He flashes the ability to finish with both hands around the cup and hit tough mid-range jump shots over defenders using that 6'8" wingspan. I love his game. He can defend. He can score inside the arc. I know Cason Wallace got a lot of Drew Holiday comparisons from Kevin O'Connor, but I actually like Drew Holiday as a comparison for Kobe Bufkin, mid-range specialist who can lock down opposing guards. I love what I've seen out of Kobe Bufkin, and this just is right up the Atlanta Hawks' alley for what they need. What was the biggest need for the Hawks in this draft? You have Capella, you have Onyeka Okongwu, you have DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, DeJounte Murray, Trae Young. They needed backcourt depth in defense coming off the bench. Kobe Bufkin provides both this. I love this pick for Atlanta. I didn't mock him to Atlanta. I had Bufkin actually going a little bit earlier in my final mock draft, but my 15th ranked prospect goes 15. Great fit between Bufkin and Atlanta.
As I make my return here, obviously you love the pick, Rolly. Type L for love or H for hate. How do you guys feel about the pick? And Rolly, 35.5% isn't sniper, but coming out of college, that's an acceptable enough clip for me. That's something to build on. I think he can be a high 30s three-point shooter in this league, and if he can, he potentially could be that third guard for Atlanta coming off the bench. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's recap where we are at this point with the Jazz on the clock, sitting at number 16. Victor Wembanyama, no surprise, goes to the Spurs, number 1 overall. Brandon Miller, the wing out of Alabama, goes number 2 to the Charlotte Hornets. The Trailblazers selected Scoot Henderson with the 3rd selection. Amon Thompson and Ausar Thompson, the twins, they go to the Houston Rockets and Detroit Pistons, respectively. Anthony Black, the guard out of Arkansas, goes to Orlando. Bilal Coulibaly goes to Washington. And then Jarace Walker, number 8 overall, to the Indiana Pacers. Taylor Hendricks, number 9 overall, to the Utah Jazz. Cason Wallace, the 10th pick, he goes to the Thunder. Jett Howard out of Michigan goes to Orlando. Dereck Lively, the 2nd after Dallas traded down. They land him. Plus, they now have the full mid-level exception, and they have a $17 million trade exception with reports out there that they are looking to make moves with those. So stay tuned for that. Gradey Dick goes to Toronto at number 13. Jordan Hawkins, the guard out of UConn, goes 14th overall. Kobe Bufkin, number 15. And just moments ago, Keyonte George, Rolly, I mentioned it in our build-up as we were waiting for the draft to start. To me, maybe the biggest boom-bust guy in the draft outside of a top 5 prospect. I think he could end up being one of the best players in this draft. He could also not be in the league in 3 or 4 years. Give us a little bit of a breakdown.
I can tell you what, this might be my early favorite pick of the entire draft. Keyonte George is a perfect fit in Utah, because when you really think of what the Jazz need after taking Taylor Hendricks at 9, they needed guard scoring because they're set in the front court. Now they have Hendricks at the 3, Markkanen at the 4, with Walker Kessler at the 5. So what could they use here on this team to get better? Scoring from the guard position. Keyonte George will be able to provide that, a 3-level scoring guard who can score at the 3, the mid-range, and inside. A lot of talent. We'll see if his shot selection gets better. But to me, this signals that Colin Sexton could be on the move here, Harrison. I know there's been a lot of buzz about him getting traded after he signed, I think it was a 4 for $80 deal that past offseason, getting traded from Cleveland to Utah in the Donovan Mitchell trade, getting the extension. I think Colin Sexton could be on the move. Keyonte George can slide in and be that starting 2 guard right away. Just got to improve that shot selection. We've mentioned it, but he can score at all 3 levels on the basketball court, has all-star potential, and I think has the potential, if he reaches his climax, to be one of the best scorers in the NBA. He could be scoring 28 a game in the NBA.
I think ideally he comes off the bench at least at first, but yeah, maybe he starts. You trade Sexton like you mentioned. What is Jordan Clarkson's future in Utah? Keep an eye on that as well. But Keyonte George, the selection here, and again, if he just becomes a smarter player and tightens up his shot just a little bit, and more importantly, his shot decision-making, I think he's got a chance to really be a stud for the Utah Jazz. And now the Los Angeles Lakers on the clock, Rolly. I think, deep down they would have liked for a Gradey Dick to be available. When you take a look at some of your top players available, who do you like here for Los Angeles with that 17th pick?
Well, I tell you what, Cam Whitmore still being available.
His
makes
workouts
no
must
sense.
have been bad.
Yeah, I guess so. But what did I think the Lakers need? They need scoring from the perimeter and 3-point shooting. Now, unfortunately for me, my best available on that range is Jalen Hood-Schifino, which is kind of devastating for me because I'm a Heat fan. I really want Schifino to go 18 to Miami. But I could really see them go Schifino, be that guard that can score from the perimeter with LeBron James, AD. Maybe you're losing Reeves in free agency. I know there's a lot of rumors of them trying to retain him. But if they do lose Reeves, Jalen Hood-Schifino could be a great pick. D'Lo, they're probably trying to deal this offseason. I'd probably, for the Lakers, lean Jalen Hood-Schifino, but selfishly, I hope they don't.
Who is the best player available that can actually play rotation minutes right now, regardless of fit, regardless of position? Because if you're the Lakers, you're trying to get someone, and then you're going to hop off and get ready for the Heat pick at 18. But if you had, out of all these guys, who could step in and contribute right away?
Well, on the board that you see right now, stepping in and playing right away, I would lean Jalen Hood-Schifino. But if they were looking for someone to actually, I don't know, it's not a fit because they need a guard, but if Olivier Maxence Prosper, it's a little early, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kris Murray, those are the type of forwards that can be immediate role players. These 4 guys you see on screen could all borderline be a little bit of projects, but the 4 people you see, Jalen Hood-Schifino is the most ready to play in the NBA.
All right, appreciate it, Roy. He's going to go get ready for the Heat selection at 18, host of the Miami Heat Report here at Chat Sports. And Cam Whitmore is sliding. There was chatter that he could, but to 17, I don't think anybody, at least here at Chat Sports, expected that. He was our number 7 overall player, Jalen Hood-Schifino. He's sitting there available as well. Rolly likes that fit for the Lakers. Leonard Miller. Nick Smith, we talked earlier, the Lakers could use some more ball handling. Maybe Nick Smith can help in that regard. So we shall see what happens on that front. Keyonte George going number 16 to the Utah Jazz. Jake Fisher reports that Utah has been getting plenty of calls for the number 28 pick, so we'll see if they end up moving that selection. Now, if you want a shout-out on our live show, we will give you guys a shout-out if you retweet our pinned tweet. We got to get the pinned tweet in the live chat. We will do that here momentarily, but everyone who has retweeted it so far, I'll get a few shout-outs for the new people. Dixon the Goat, we got, let's see, Isaac, U Burner, LLA Dubs retweeting it, Rashard Lee getting in there as well, appreciate him. Shout out to ZNX, State Free, JDM, everyone who has retweeted our pinned tweet on Chat Sports, we appreciate it quite a bit. Let's bring in Chase Sr. now as he hops back in here after a quick break. What do you make of Cam Whitmore still being out there? There was reports that he didn't have great workouts. Those reports appear to be true. I mean, that's really the only explanation for why he's still on the board.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it in the lead-up to the draft tonight that there were some reports about him starting to slide in this draft. And it's a little bit interesting. You know, he got off to a rocky start at Villanova, and then once he was on the floor, he was a little bit inconsistent. He is the youngest player in this draft class, so you do worry about some immaturity concerns potentially, and maybe that's why he didn't have the greatest workout, or just like he showed at Villanova, is he a streaky player who struggles to kind of find a rhythm? I like his size, 6'6", 235, good wingspan at 6'8", but at Villanova, the production was somewhat worrisome, 12.5 points per game, 5 rebounds, solid defensive player, 1.5 steals per night, 34% on his three-point shots. It's not terrible, 57% on his true shooting percentage. A good second jump. He can sky for rebounds. Doesn't need the ball to be effective. So if he is a complementary piece on a team, that could work out. But he does have some shaky form. So that is a little bit of an issue as well. If he figures out that form, can he be a guy who shoots between 35, 39% from three? I don't think that's out of the question.
He's not even 19 yet, and he still has shown some production at the call. Like
end the year too, he was pretty good
at a big time call. He's got major 3-and-D potential. You get at this point in the draft, it's like he's athletic, check. He's got a workable jump shot, check. He played at a big program and contributed, check. Frame and size, check.
Could you see LeBron James just saying, look, this guy is a good player. I really like him. The value of him, it's too good to pass up on.
He's going to help this franchise down the road.
We'll help him down the road.
And potentially now.
Maybe now. Let's draft him.
If you're the Lakers, if it's not him, who is helping you in a much bigger way right now? Like Gradey Dick, if he was here, I'd say take him because I think he's a plug-and-play guy who can shoot for you. But I just don't know who that guy is that's on the board at this point. So, you look at the Lakers. This would be classic Heat, by the way. He just falls to 18, and they develop him, and he becomes a really good role player. Warriors, if he's there, I would love that for Golden State.
Yeah, you have a couple of good player development organizations here with the Miami Heat, as well as the Golden State Warriors. The Houston Rockets, they are locked and loaded with a lot of good young pieces. A year or two down the road, I could see if they figure out that rotation, which I think they'll be able to, with Ime Udoka, they could be a serious player once again to at least cause some stirs in that Western Conference. And then the Los Angeles Lakers, did they try to go with the player who is a little bit older as compared to Cam Whitmore, or is the value here and the potential too good to pass up on? I could see a scenario in which he goes to LA too. He's not getting past the Heat or the Warriors, I don't think.
And if they've been on the clock for a while, so maybe they're trying to trade this pick. If you're a Lakers fan, we have a Lakers YouTube channel here at Chat Sports. And look, we're going to break down every pick they make tonight here on Chat Sports, but also on our Lakers channel, youtube.com/LakersTV. So subscribe. We crossed 50,000 subscribers, trying to get to 51K before free agency. Help us out. Hit that sub button. Everything the Lakers do this offseason, we're going to be breaking it down here on this channel. The Lakers also have the 40th pick, so we'll see if they're going to wheel and deal it all with 17 and 40. But look, LeBron to me, Chase, sent a message to that front office at the end of the season where he kind of said loosely, I got to really decide what my future looks like, yada, yada. I don't think anyone took him seriously that he could retire, but I do think it was a kind of a little subliminal message to Rob Pelinka, appreciate what you did at the deadline, helped us make a nice little run here, but we're still a move or two away from being a title contender, and with him being 39 this year, Chase, the Lakers got to identify what that move or two is.
Yeah, could we go best players available here? And as you get that queued up, obviously the Lakers on the clock here at number 17. They also have number 40 in the second round. They did trade up to take Max Christie out of Michigan State last year.
Didn't give them anything.
Didn't really love the player coming out of Michigan State. Very, very raw. But you look at some of the top players available here. We spent our time talking about Cam Whitmore. Jalen Hood-Schifino.
That's who Rolly likes here, by the way.
Is a very good offensive player who is a little bit erratic and inconsistent, but he can pour it up. Leonard Miller, wing out of the G League. Nick Smith Jr., playmaking guard out of Arkansas. So those are the best players available as of right now. We have seen a couple of shockers throughout the draft tonight. But again, with Miami and Golden State, both organizations have done a terrific job of grooming players. I don't think that Cam Whitmore gets past the next 3 picks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me, look, we don't know of any medical issue, but it kind of reminds me of the Michael Porter year where, like, eventually some team was just going to take a chance on him.
Right.
And obviously, while Porter's been a bit inconsistent in some injury problems, like, I think that pick is more than paid off. I mean, they got him 14 overall, and he was just a somewhat key contributor to a championship for the Nuggets. I think, I'm not saying Cam Whitmore's Michael Porter Jr., but the point being is, we have him as the top 10 prospect, and the 16 picks have gone by. So somebody is going to take a calculated risk at some point in time. But I'll re-mention here, as you look at some other top players on the board, I know Rolly's really high on Olivier Maxence Prosper, Jaime Jaquez as well. You got the brother of Keegan Murray and Kris Murray there. I'll mention this as well, Chase. The longer this goes, the more I wonder if LA is trying to trade this pick. Maybe they wanted a Gradey Dick to be there, or a Jordan Hawkins, a couple of players that I think could have contributed right away. Because I look at the best available, I'm like, who helps you right away? Like, Whitmore has the play style too, but he's 18.
Yeah.
Like, he'll be 19 when the season starts, but, that's a tough sell to a LeBron-oriented team. Unless he really likes the player, you never know, but they're trying to win right now, and I'm not sure who that player is based on who's available. Maybe they slide down a few slots and take a win now piece a little bit later while picking up something else also.
Yeah, I imagine they were really hoping that Gradey Dick or Jordan Hawkins fell to them. They were right on the cusp of that actually happening. I think that both of those players would have been plug and play, and they would have fulfilled needs. Both shooters on a team that could use a knockdown shooter.
Yeah.
If you bring him back, Austin Reeves, have that shooter and playmaker in Austin Reeves, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Outside of that, though, some big question marks on that team. You need a point guard. You need a consistent knockdown shooter who can just be a reliable catch-and-shoot guy, and they just missed out on that. So anytime a pick lasts this long in which you're on the board, usually that indicates that you're trying to trade that pick. We're under 40 seconds to go until the Lakers have to make that selection official.
Yeah, exactly. And, teams after them that could move up, I don't even know who that – Brooklyn, because they have the back-to-back picks, maybe, but looks like the pick is in. It is going to be Jalen Hood-Schifino, and that's who Rolly liked here, and he wanted him for the Miami Heat, so that's not going to happen. He's going to go to the Lakers in the purple and gold, so Hood-Schifino is landing in Los Angeles, and I asked Rolly, out of all the players available, who can help them the most right now, and Rolly just yelled "fuck" as loud as possible out there in the hallway as he's getting ready to for the Miami Heat pick at 18. He identified Hood-Schifino as the guy who has the best chance to help this team right away.
Yeah, and let's talk about him, right? Because he's 6'4", but get this, has a 6'10" wingspan. He's only 20 years old. He's one of the more complete offensive players from the guard spot in this draft. He's just a little bit too inconsistent. But when he's humming, when he's going, he basically has any type of shot in his pocket where he can get buckets from all 3 levels. Good on-ball defender, uses his length really well. If he improves his three-point shooting, he can be a guard who can score off the bench to start his NBA career. Doesn't really attack the cup. He does prefer to stay in that mid-range level, but that's fine because if you settle for a little jump shot there, he's so creative and athletic enough to kind of create some space where he can get his shot off. That's when you got to really be aware of him if you're an opposing defense. The cup for him is kind of a Malcolm Brogdon, but I think he's a better offensive player than that. 13.5 points per game last year at Indiana. But you talk about the lack of consistency here. Sub 42% from the field and then 33% from three-point range. And that came with him being 20 years old. So that's really the big concern with him as he makes this transition to the NBA level where the consistency is a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, and look, you think about the Lakers roster construction, right? D'Angelo Russell and Dennis Schroeder impending free agents. Does this pick signal the exit for one or both? I would guess at least one of those guys is gone. We know they're going to prioritize re-signing Austin Reeves. That's pretty clear. So maybe you keep Schroeder for cheaper, who I think was more effective in the playoffs at least than D'Lo, a guy who can at least defend a little bit. Russell's not going to give you any of that. So maybe you bring him back. You add Hood-Schifino to the mix as well, and you keep the train rolling. But you got to think if you're Los Angeles, like a move is coming, whether it's tonight or in free agency to help bolster this unit to try and make a run at a championship next year.
For sure.
So let us know. Grade the pick A, B, C, D, or F. Rollies in shambles, but the Miami Heat are on the clock. Official statement? Fuck, he says. A, B, C, D, or F. Just take Cam Whitmore if you're Miami, right?
I'm taking Cam Whitmore for sure.
Especially into that franchise. Like if there's some kind of character or whatever questions coming in, no better franchise than the Miami Heat to kind of rein that in and maximize the player.
But also, if you're Cam Whitmore, you might be disappointed that you weren't a lottery pick or that you didn't go a little bit earlier. You should be thanking the basketball gods if you do get picked by Miami because they will maximize you. Look at what they've done with Caleb Martin. Look at what they've done with Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Bam Adebayo. The list goes on and on and on. Duncan Robinson. That's current guys, right? Yeah. They have developed the hell out of players, and they can do the same with Cam Whitmore, no question.
Well, and he gets to join a team that's trying to win right now, so maybe his role isn't massive right away, but he gets to learn from guys who just made a trip to the NBA Finals, and he can lean on the Caleb Martins of the world of like, hey, man, I got cut by another team, but I came here and contributed for a team that won the East. Yeah. So I think that would be a hell of an opportunity for Cam Whitmore. Grade the pick of Hood-Schifino. I see an A in there. Ralph says B. Fart Willie says B. Alvin says A. Mike Dibble. By the way, I was down the hall taking care of the business we're not going to bring on the air after drinking too many beers here. I had to clear the bladder. You know how it is. And I hear some Mike Dibble chants. So shout out to Mike Dibble, $480 super chat, just fantastic. And we appreciate you guys. Anybody else? And I think we made a promise, Chase. Anybody who sends in 500, we'll get a basketball, sign it, and ship it out to you guys. Yep. So we got Paul Price and Mike Dibble. Have we heard from Paul? Is that going to get squared away? Have we heard from him yet in terms of shipping something out?
I'll have to look at the Twitter.
Hopefully that does. But if anyone wants to donate, here's our super chat menu. $5 for sipping, $10. We'll talk about your favorite team. $20, we're taking shots, and for $100, we'll do a beer bong or a shotgun. By the way, we have a chance to double our total from last year in super chats. We're almost there. $826 a year ago, $1,200 tonight. So if you want to help us double our total, that would be about $1,650. Donations are the way to do that. Taker 610 with the super chat. Thoughts on Brice Sensabaugh out of Ohio State, 40.3% from three-point range. Where is he at on Rolly's big board? 24 overall, 6'6", 235. You do love the three-point shooting clip there. The true shooting percentage, almost 59% as well. Not the best athlete, but a guy who just knows how to score. So he could be someone that comes off the board pretty soon, our 8th best overall player here.
Have not heard from Paul or Mike Dibble. So once again, reach out to me, Twitter, Instagram, at Chase_Senior. Email me, too, if you want, at Chase at chatsports.com, to claim your prize. We certainly want to get it to you.
Dylan with the first-time super chatter. $10. Appreciate that from Dylan Watson. And by the way, I should tease this as well. Golden State Warriors today, we're still live. They are on deck, Chase, so We'll take a look at them here as well. Who do you think the Warriors do with this pick? So depending on what happens with Miami, could the Warriors get Cam Whitmore?
Yeah, I think it really hinges on what Miami decides to do here. I think Cam Whitmore is the obvious pick. I could see Kris Murray going to Golden State as well. Those are a couple of names to look out for. But let's see what happens with Miami first before we shift those gears to Golden State. Because if it's Cam Whitmore, I think he's the player for the Golden State Warriors.
Here's another name I'll throw at you. The James Wiseman experiment didn't work, and number 2 overall, they should have taken LaMelo, we know that. Do you try again with Noah Clowney, a guy who's very long, 7'2" wingspan, almost a double-double guy at Arkansas. Now, not the best shot blocker. You'd like for him to improve there, but if you want to add front court depth, he could be an option as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at our big board here. You have Noah Clowney. You have James Naji, Trace Jackson-Davis, Tristan Vucevic.
Don't think it would be Nick Smith. You just traded for Chris Paul. You're pretty deep at guard.
Yeah, so
I think it's wing or big.
I think it's wing or big.
Jaime Jaquez, maybe?
But again, like some of this comes down to what Golden State thinks of Jonathan Kuminga, because if you have Kuminga and you have Andrew Wiggins, those are really your wings. You still have Moses Moody waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
Do they like Patrick Baldwin Jr. enough as a former 5-star recruit to fulfill a role next year as well? And then an NBA free agency, what do they decide to do? Do they go with
they bring back
playoff-level guys at wing?
Do they bring back DiVincenzo? It sounds like the Knicks could be interested there. So, I think for Golden State.
Wow, not going to be Cam Whitmore at number 18.
Wow. It's going to be Jaime Jaquez Jr. To the Miami Heat. Rolly's walking back through. Do we get some quick Rolly? Jaime Jaquez? Official statement. Rolly's going to hop on the mic real quick before he goes and films this breakdown of Jaime Jaquez. Give me a quick 20, 30 seconds here, Rolly. Jaquez, the selection for
my one-word
Miami.
reaction was also like the last time with Jalen Hood-Schifino. Fuck. Why? I mean, it makes sense. He's going to be one of the best role players to step in from day one. And the Heat obviously need to build this roster with this pick because they don't have any moves to make in free agency. They're very hard, like they're very capped with their salary space. So it makes sense for them to go with someone who is experienced and can contribute right away. Jaquez Jr. would be one of the best role players right away. I am just shocked they went with the experienced player route and did not go with Olivier or Maxence Prosper, the forward out of Marquette. I'm not surprised with Jaquez going here because he's been mocked to go to Miami for the past 2 or 3 days heavily. I just would have preferred Olivier or Maxence Prosper.
So there's been chatter that Whitmore had bad workouts. Is there more? Like, is there a medical issue, a character issue with maybe he interviewed terrible? Like he got into these buildings and they were like, we can't trust this guy. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I don't know either. Whoever drafts Whitmore, it's probably going to be Brooklyn here at 20 and 21 because they have 2 picks, or 21, 22. Here? I don't. Like, they are in the same position as Miami where they need to draft a win-now player if they want to win, and I don't think that's Whitmore.
I threw this at Chase, by the way. Noah Clowney for Golden State.
I think LSU won. That's why.
Try again with Noah Clowney like you tried with Wiseman.
I wouldn't hate that. I also don't hate Kris Murray here for Golden State.
That's what Chase said.
Kris Murray makes a lot of sense for Golden State to experience scoring a wing that could play the 4. I think it makes a lot of sense. Right. I'm going to peace out. I'll see y'all in a little bit.
Appreciate Roy. He's going to go talk on the Heat report. So Golden State up now, Chase. We're live on Warriors Today. Let us know, Warriors fans, who do you want the Warriors to draft at this pick right now? What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's talk about Jaquez here because Mick Cronin really wanted him to return, and he has a bunch of high-level experience playing deep into the NCAA tournament this past year, and then when they made that deep run a couple of years ago. Older prospect, but he could step in, and I think he can impact the game right away. He is 22 years old. Sometimes I think that the age component of this is completely overrated.
Especially
because,
when
look,
it's role players.
If it's a role player and he's impacting your team for the next 5 to 6 years, then who the hell cares, right? 6'6", 223, good size, 6'1" wingspan. That is not ideal, but he can handle the basketball, dribble handoffs from the top of the key. He can shoot the 3 at least a little bit, 32% from that college arc. Very good production, 18 points per game, 8 rebounds.
Pac-12 Player of the Year, by the way.
Pac-12 Player of the Year, yep. And he's immediately going to be a solid role player. And that NCAA tournament loss against Gonzaga, Harry, he was great down the stretch. Like, he was willing that team at that point. Does have the ability to create for himself in the low post, but the handle at the next level, I think, is a bit of a concern just because the wingspan isn't that long. So that'll allow some players to knock away the basketball. But a high-Q basketball player going to a high-Q organization in the Miami Heat, good court vision, isn't afraid to drop a dime in tight coverage, and that works really, really well for the off-ball action that Miami sometimes likes to run.
David Melandra Jr., small sports reporter out of Philadelphia, reports that there were some medical concerns for Cam Whitmore that popped up at the NBA Combine, Chase. So pair that with some tough workouts in the pre-draft process, that could be an explanation for why he has not been drafted yet.
Interesting. Yeah, and look, like, I'm not really sure what those issues were, and of course, when we find out, we'll let you know here live here on the show. But if we're just talking about the player, obviously he's really, really good, but these medical concerns are at least enough to cause teams to hit pause. And Harry, you were talking earlier, like this seems like a Michael Porter Jr. situation with the back injury coming out of Mizzou. Where coming out of high school, Michael Porter Jr. was like one of the consensus top players in that class. He goes to Mizzou. He's not
He was
that
projected
great.
number one overall
Projected
pick.
number
out of high
one
school.
overall pick. I saw him play in high school with his brother during his junior season, so the traction wasn't quite there at that point. But it was coming down to this. Which team is willing to take a risk, take a chance for a high upside player? Now that's the same conversation with Cam Whitmore. Which team is willing to take a chance?
Oh, and you got to think Golden State's at least in the mix there, right? Like
Yeah.
they're a team that, like, if this pick doesn't work out, it doesn't kill you. Obviously, you'd like to get a piece that can help you for the future, not just now. But I think, look, in the NBA, you get beyond the first couple of picks, it's somewhat of a crapshoot anyway. It's very hit and miss. You get at this point in the draft, if you're a win-now team and you think a player like this can help you now and in the future, I think you take a chance. If I'm Golden State, I would absolutely select him here. Oh, but they're not going to. Brandin Podziemski, who there was some buzz that they could go this route, the guard out of Santa Clara, Chase.
Okay.
He goes 19th overall to Golden State with this selection.
Wow. Okay. So producer Jack doesn't like it. And yeah, you can.
Yeah, go sub to Warriors Today. We're live over there right now. Some notes on him, Chase. 6'4", 203, 6'6" wingspan. Great college player. 20-9, 4 assists per game. How about this? 43.8% from three. Now, he played at Santa Clara.
Yeah.
Not a lot of high-level competition, but 20 years old. A guy who can score the basketball. Does he have enough athleticism to be a plug-and-play player in the NBA at the college level, small-level college? Certainly yes. That remains to be seen for Golden State.
Yeah, and look, sometimes like we do overrate where players go. If you can hoop, you can hoop. I mean, Damian Lillard, Weber State. You had, Ja Morant coming from small basketball power, right? So for him to go to Santa Clara, it's not a basketball powerhouse by any means, but an effortless scorer, knows how to find his shot at all three levels. He goes to a Warriors team with 6'4" ability, 6'6" wingspan, who has a ton of college production, as Harrison had said, almost 20 points per game. He's a good rebounder for his size, nearly 8 rebounds
An
per.
efficient 20, too.
An
by the way.
efficient 20 as well. 48% from the field and also almost 44% from three-point range.
Yeah.
So sometimes it doesn't really matter where you're playing. If you can shoot, you can shoot, and it comes so effortless for him. And also, with Golden State, he's going to have a lot of opportunities to drain shots off the catch and shoot. He was a very good catch and shoot player at Santa Clara. Good enough handle for him to get by. I want to see him become a little bit better of a playmaker, but a good rebounder for his size. Again, he did rebound the basketball playing in the WCC, which is a little bit of a concern, of course. Not a good defender.
That's the problem.
So that's the problem. Because now you have Chris Paul, you have Steph Curry, who are not elite defenders. Klay Thompson has taken a step back. If you re-sign Draymond Green, that's good. What happens at the 5 spot, we will see. Kevon Looney at least solid. Rolly's pro comp is Malik Monk, who looked to start his career as a bust, but has ended up being a very, very good player.
Less athletic Monk, might be something you're looking at. This feels like a matchup-dependent bench scorer.
Yeah.
Like, in certain matchups, he's a guy who can come in and hit a few threes and probably score 10 to 15 points per game. On some nights, he might not play. I mean, you think of a guy like Duncan Robinson, right? He's been in and out of the rotation for Miami in recent years, Chase, but how big did he come up in the playoffs with his three-point shooting and ability to score the basketball? So maybe there's a little bit of that there where you can find a way to make up for his defensive inability just because he's that capable offensively. So let us know, Dub Nation. Do you love or hate the pick? Type L for love or H for hate. It's the live poll on Warriors Today.
Live poll. 62% saying that they hate the pick. Let us know on Golden State Warriors Today. And also earlier, we talked about that Chris Paul, Jordan Poole trade. Be sure to look out for that. I believe Tom Downey is going to provide even more analysis about this pick here on the channel, and then some more content to come from the NBA draft on Warriors Today. Make sure you subscribe.
Woj just said the Rockets are heavily considering ending Cam Whitmore's slide here at 20. Decision looming.
Smart. I mean, if you're the Rockets, you're
Why not?
you're not winning right now. Why not take the chance? I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. If I'm Brooklyn, I'm like, damn, that sucks. Because if I was the Nets, I would have done the same thing. So interesting. And again, like, what if the medical situation is? I'll compare it to the NFL. Miles Jack, right? His medical profile was, well, he's just not going to be able to have a 10, 12-year career. But if he's awesome for 5 to 7, I would still argue it's worth it.
Right.
So I'm taking that chance here if I'm the Rockets. You're not winning this year anyway. Take the best player available. And it is. It's going to be Cam Whitmore at number 20 overall. Chase, number 7 overall player on Rolly's big board. Obviously, medical concerns, not great workouts leading up to the draft has led to this slide here. But, again, at some point, a team's going to take a chance, and that team is Houston.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what the injury concerns and what the medical concerns are because he's so young. He's not even 19 years old yet, 18 years old in 9 months, so soon to be 19 in about 3 months. Really, really good size. 6'6", 235 at Villanova. Certainly didn't fulfill the expectations that were thrust on him as he was exiting high school, going to Villanova. But again, the age is something where you can continue to build around his game and has an NBA-ready frame. So physically, I think he's going to be able to hold up. A good second jump can sky for rebounds, quickly to get back up for a dunk, so he is very springy. There were no injuries that I knew of at the end of his Villanova tenure, which would have given him any red flags going into the NBA draft. Doesn't really need the basketball to be all too effective. And on that Rockets team, I don't expect him to play too much from year one. Yeah. But in the future, like you have Jalen Green, you have Jabari Smith, you might not be that primary playmaker. The form, as we talked about moments ago, is a little bit shaky. But if he figures out that form and he gets it in line, can he shoot between 35 and 39% from 3? If he's able to do that, with him being a tweener, little versatile, already an athletic body that converts to the NBA level, this is a good value selection for Houston. They've had so many early picks over the last couple of years. Why not take a chance here at 20?
Yeah, and I feel like you guys shout out your favorite team, and in a moment we'll pick a team to talk about with the Nets on the clock. And I feel like if you're the Rockets, you're still in the compile talent point of your rebuild. Get players, and then evaluate in the next year or two. Here, who are the players that can help you win in the future? Like, I think Alperen Sengun is one of those guys. Jalen Green, is he not? I think it's a big year for him coming up. You draft Amon Thompson, you get Cam Whitmore. So there's some intriguing young talent there, and now it's about figuring out which ones are cornerstone pieces moving into the future. So I'm going to take a look. The first team I see is the Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves are the first team I see, and they don't have a first-round pick. Do they have a second-round pick? We'll look at their team profile. They do pick at 53. Obviously, no first because they traded for Rudy Gobert. Last year, they got Wendell Moore, Josh Minott, and Matthias Spagnola. If you're Minnesota right now, Chase, I really don't know what you do because I think the Gobert trade was a flop. Not because he's not a good player, but I just don't like the fit with Karl Anthony Towns. Like, to me, splitting those guys up somehow is like a smart move. But you're not going to get back what you gave up for Towns or for Gobert, so you're kind of in a tough spot if you're Minnesota.
I hated it for Minnesota because at the end of the game and the guts of the game, how are you going to play Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. It's not enough playmaking. It's not enough dribble creation. So now they're stuck in this predicament in which they have those two bigs, and Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. We're unsure if they can play with one another. They need to figure out point guard. They traded away D'Angelo Russell. They have Mike Conley, who is a little bit old and washed up.
Not much left in the tank.
And then you have Anthony Edwards Jr., who at moments last year did take some steps back. Rough showing in the first couple of games against Denver. Really came alive at the end of that series. When they started to get it together, they gave the eventual NBA champions
they were competitive.
some fits. So they were somewhat competitive. I just hated giving all that up for Rudy Gobert because in today's NBA, to have two bigs on the floor at the same time at the end of the game, it really doesn't make a lot of sense for me.
Especially when neither of them can handle the ball at a high rate. Like, when New Orleans did the Anthony Davis-DeMarcus Cousins pairing, that looked like it was going to work well. And then Boogie got hurt, so we'll never know how that played out. Gobert does not handle the ball at all. He does not space the floor. Cat can extend to the three-point line, but he's not a guy you're isolating with late in games.
He thinks he's the best big in the NBA.
Well, and A, he's not, and B, his play style doesn't translate to late-game scoring, so it's like you don't really – it's like you're playing Tetris and none of the pieces fit. Like, I just don't know what you do moving forward. You mentioned the lack of a point guard. I don't think Edwards is a true point. I also don't think he's a number one on a title team. I do think he can be a number two. Like, I do think that, but – you're just kind of stuck with not a number one, not great roster construction. Like, normally I commend aggressive general managers, but that was just a moronic trade for Gobert. Not because Gobert's not good, but because it made no sense fit-wise with Karl Anthony Towns, and so now you're kind of stuck, and it's like, what do you do moving forward?
Yeah, and going back to Houston, like, Ime Udoka has to be really, really excited about the young nucleus that he's walking into. I thought the Boston Celtics really missed his authority last year and him holding players accountable. It was kind of way too free-flowing last year, and I believe that's why they struggled, especially against a mentally tougher team in the Miami Heat. So Ime Udoka has to be really excited about the nucleus that he's going to be able to coach with Houston, and Rockets fans have to be excited about this as well, as they've had to undergo some tough years following James Harden's prime, and even with Harden, like, so many great years that just ended up being heart-crushing ends to the season, especially missing 27 consecutive threes. Sorry to bring it up. Shout out Will Scott. Make sure you subscribe to the show. Year-round NBA coverage, NBA news, rumors, draft talk, trades, free agency, all that and much more, plus all of our content 100% free. Continuing to try to break some records here on the program. Help us continue to do that.
And can we get 1,000 new subscribers tonight, Chase? We have 801. We got 2,100 people watching. I know at least 200 of you guys have not subscribed. It's free. Free agency is just around the corner. Starts next Friday. We'll be live for at least the first 3 or 4 days of that. I can promise you. Myself, Chase Sr., everybody else chipping in here at Chat Sports. So let's get 1,000 new subs tonight. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of the best available, Chase. Another G League Ignite player, Leonard Miller, sitting there, Rolly's 18th overall selection. Nick Smith Jr., who at the end of the college season, many viewed as a lottery pick. He's been sliding in the pre-draft process, but he's very talented. Noah Clowney, the other Alabama player who I think could be an intriguing piece. I know Rolly really likes Olivier Maxence Prosper as well. I know you're a fan of Kris Murray, the brother of Keegan Murray also. He could be going soon.
Yeah, I thought that he could have been in play for Golden State. I thought that he would have been a nice fit there as a guy who can kind of be a plug-and-play rotational player. Brice Sensabaugh, the wing out of Ohio State.
Shooter.
Some people were asking about him a little bit earlier. He could certainly stroke it. G.G. Jackson, the wing out of South Carolina. Kobe Jones, the guard out of Xavier. And then you look at the 9 through 12 players here. Dariq Whitehead out of Duke. James Naji out of Barcelona. Andre Jackson Jr., Rolly and I have been on this, and we've talked about it here, is how we believe that he could have an imprint on a game, kind of like a Draymond Green. Can't shoot a lick, right? But from the high post, he could be a really good passer, very good defender, and a guy who puts his fingerprints all over the game. Ben Sheppard, the guard out of Belmont, out of Tennessee. Nashville, what's up? And then Marcus Sasser, a player who's really good for Houston over the last couple of years. Trace Jackson Davis, Maxwell Lewis, and Tristan Vucevic, the top players available, all 16 of them, as we start to close up on this first round with the Brooklyn Nets on the clock at number 21.
Ben Sheppard, Chase, a player who really stood out the NBA Combine, obviously played at small school Belmont, but has experience, 42% from three, 19 a game, grabbed 5 rebounds, 6'8" wingspan, stands at 6'5". I think he could be a guy in a rotation that can come off the bench and score a little bit for you. I wonder if a team like Brooklyn would value him. Is that a little bit early here, perhaps? Boston at 25 could be interesting as they got that selection in the Kristaps Porzingis trade. You got Indiana set to pick again here in a few moments as well. Charlotte at 27. Did the Jazz make another pick here at 28? We shall see. And then the Nuggets and Clippers wrap up round 1. And guess what? We'll be live for round 2 as well. So don't go anywhere as we await this pick. The Brooklyn Nets on the clock. We shall see what they do here. By the way, Chase, for our Warriors fans still watching, Kevin O'Connor says Brandin Podziemski is the quintessential Warriors player, perfect fit for their system with his shooting, feel, and toughness. Should get chances to play as a rookie, but even if he doesn't, with so many guards and now Chris Paul, he should be ready for a heavy role by year 2.
Interesting. Mike Dibble, we got your email, got your Twitter DM as well. The basketball is yours, my friend, and we still have not heard from our guy, Paul Price. If you want to claim your basketball as well, we'll sign this for you too. So Paul Price, email chase@chatsports.com, Twitter and Instagram @Chase_senior. Shoot me a DM, shoot me an email with your address, and we'll get you a ball as well.
If you love the NBA draft, spam me in the chat. I will get you guys some shout-outs. Mariah Mills vids, super chat like this.
Yes, exactly right. Mariah Mills has entered the chat.
Yeah, she hopped on Stephen A's stream.
Yes.
Saul says me. Jay Peach in the chat. Mike Dibble says me. What a legend. We're going to get you that basketball, Dibby. Mark says me. David, Golf, Saul. Williams says me. We got Mark Gabbert saying me as well. Chase says me. James says me. Dylan says, bro, how long are you going to take? Listen, we don't control the pace of play during the NBA draft. Listen.
We're not making the picks there, bud.
Yeah, we wish. I know y'all blamed us last year for Kai Soto not getting drafted, but we only control so much. Kev Gone says me, not me from Chris. Well, thanks for the comment anyway.
How about this one? We have a pick in before ESPN has it. So we're not dictating the pace, but our pace is faster than ESPN.
Noah
Clowney, the big, going to the Brooklyn Nets, round 1, 21 overall. I kept waiting for him to go. It's right in that range where Rolly thought he was going to go. 20th overall player, according to Rolly. Very good size, 6'10", 210 pounds, so a little bit skinny. 10 points per game, 8 rebounds last year, nearly a block per night, 28% on his three-point shots, and 3.3 attempts per game, 57% true shooting percentage. In today's NBA, if you were to draft a big, they have to be a versatile, switchable defender. Otherwise, you're going to get burnt on the defensive end of the floor. Noah Clowney is a versatile defender. When you're playing alongside studs like a Brandon Miller, right, you get overshadowed with what you bring to the floor. And then at the NBA level, maybe you're able to maximize and display a lot of your ability. He is a willing shooter. I do like that about him, even though the percentages are very low at 28%. Why is that? Because as a big in today's NBA, if you can shoot, it just makes you more valuable if you're able to knock down those shots. Nearly 49% on his field goals. Can he defend physical bigs? That's a little bit of a problem. We're talking about Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Steven Adams, because he is only 210 pounds. High-end comp, maybe Miles Turner, low-end Kevon Looney.
Yeah, and look, Rolly made the note that he shoots more threes than he probably should. The good news is he's gotten those repetitions. Can he become a 34, 35% three-point shooter in the NBA? If he can do that as a stretch 4 or a 5, I think you'll live with those numbers. I wondered if Golden State could maybe take him and, kind of take 2 of James Wiseman, if you will, but they opted obviously to take Podziemski, but at the end of the day, he goes to Brooklyn, and guess what? The Nets are on the clock once again. More shout-outs for everybody typing me, Ryder, Kev. We got Hunter Smith in there. Type me for a shout-out if you want a shout-out right now. We got Kieran in the chat, Mike Dibble once again, Ignacio. We got Nate. Let's see. BD says should have stayed in college. Mukesh says me. Kieran says me. Z-Tech says me. Jordan Brubb says me. Kev says me as well. So appreciate everybody for hanging out. Just recycling back through what's happened during the draft so far. Victor Wembanyama goes number 1 overall to the Spurs. Charlotte takes Brandon Miller number 2. After some debate within that organization, that means Scoot Henderson goes number 3 to Portland. Amon Thompson and Ausar Thompson, twins, they go back-to-back to Houston and Detroit. Anthony Black goes to Orlando. Bilal Coulibaly and a trade up from 8 to 7 for Washington goes number 7. Indiana slides back and takes Jarace Walker. Taylor Hendricks goes number 9 to Utah. Cason Wallace trades up with the Mavs or the Thunder trade up with the Mavs and take Cason Wallace. Jett Howard goes number 11 to Orlando. Dereck Lively to Dallas, a defensive big after sliding back from 10 to 12. Gradey Dick goes number 13 overall to Toronto. Jordan Hawkins goes 14th overall to the Pelicans. Kobe Bufkin, another Michigan player, goes 15th overall to Atlanta. Keyonte George, the Baylor guard, goes to Utah at number 16. Jalen Hood-Schifino goes 17th overall out of Indiana to the Lakers. Jaime Jaquez lands with Miami. Brandin Podziemski goes to the Warriors. Cam Whitmore goes to the Rockets, and then Noah Clowney to the Brooklyn Nets. And they are on the clock again, so we will see what Brooklyn does here at 22. Do they keep the pick? Do they trade it? We shall see. And then Chase, interesting thought as well with Portland on the clock at 23. Did they make another pick? Is there some sort of trade that gets involved there? I still think the Damian Lillard discussion is very much in play.
Yeah, it's so interesting because they take Scoot Henderson, and we discussed this throughout the broadcast, right? Like to have Anthony Simons, Damian Lillard, Scoot Henderson, and Shaedon Sharpe, who showed a lot of ability last year, top 5 player among my rankings a year ago in this same draft. It doesn't really work. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So if you draft Scoot, trade Dame, and you get a lot of assets back, and Anthony Simons is still really young, and now you have Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, and whatever capital you get back for Damian Lillard, that's how you streamline that rebuild, where in 3 to 5 years, you can get back to ideally being a contender in the Western Conference playoffs. But to have Damian Lillard still on the team with those other players, I can't imagine he's happy because the reports are coming from credible sources like Chris Haynes that he doesn't want to undergo a rebuild.
Yeah.
But they're not in a position to win right now. So it's not a full-on rebuild unless they trade Dame away, and they're not a serious contender right now either.
I just think, too, like, with Scoot being the pick there, like, it just makes sense to reset. Like, I have a ton of respect for Dame wanting to make it work there. I have a ton of respect for Portland wanting to make it work there. But, like, to me, an adult conversation needs to happen where they just sit down and be like, look, like, we don't want you to be the bad guy and have to go public with the trade request. We don't want to look like the franchise that is just giving up on this window. But reality is reality. Like, you gave us 10, 12 good years. We're going to ship you out, give you a chance to go win elsewhere. We're resetting with Scoot Henderson. And you move on. I mean, that's very few players, teams, etc. with the superstar does it end the way you want it to. There's only so many Dirks and Kobes that play 20-plus years with the franchise. Like, I don't think anybody's going to fault either party at this point if the Trailblazers end up trading Dame.
Yeah, who's the best player still available? Some analysis there on the Trailblazers and the Damian Lillard front. It looks as though it's the most serious that these trade discussions have been for Portland around their homegrown superstar. Best player still available, though. Drop us a name down below in the comments section. Show off that basketball intellect with what you think, and we'll start to give you some shout-outs here. Ryder Ye, Way, Kev Gons, and Ricardo, the people who are pacing the chat right now. But who's the best player available? Chase Clemens, nice name, by the way. Going Murray, G.G. Jackson from John Edward, Nick Smith from Jason, Keontae Johnson from Charlie, another Murray. So some good names in there for best players available. And Harry, here's our list right here.
Yeah, Leonard Miller, who averaged 18 and 11, 6'9", 213, 7'2" wingspan as well. 33% from three, so not great, but not horrendous either. And I always take these G League Ignite stats with a grain of salt because, like, how organized is it really? Like, I think there's a lot still to learn about these players that play in the Ignite. Still such a small sample size of people who have gone that route. Nick Smith, a player who 2 months ago probably would have gone top 10, but he's been sliding a bit. Olivier Maxence Prosper, a player that Rolly certainly loves, still sitting there. Kris Murray in the mix as well. And one of the biggest news items from the day in the association, Chase, was the Chris Paul-Jordan Poole swap involving a couple of picks as well. We'll break that down in a moment. We do have another pick here as well. It's Dariq Whitehead going to Brooklyn. So they go Clowney and Whitehead back-to-back here through the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, interesting here. Whitehead, a wing out of Duke, who, like Cam Whitmore, one of the youngest players in this draft, only 18 years old, 6'6", 193 pounds, 8 points per game, 2.5 rebounds last year, 42% from the field, but almost 43% from three-point range. It's really tough to gauge that Duke team from last year because Coach K moves on, and they have this little bit of a culture change and roster change. They started the season slow. They ended it hot. I thought that because they were on that hot streak, they were going to be able to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. They did not. They won the ACC championship, correct?
Oh, they stormed through that
tournament very, very quickly. And Whitehead is a young player, doesn't have the most experience, so he goes to a Brooklyn team in which he's probably going to be riding the bench. Fantastic, and I mean really, really good catch-and-shoot player. 45% on his spot-up threes last year. So that is something that can really, really translate to the NBA level. That wingspan being 6'10" at 6'6" does give him a high release, so it's difficult to defend and get a hand in his face to alter that shot. Good off-ball defender. Quickness to guard multiple positions as well. Some injury concerns, though. Has had foot issues, had foot surgery in August to repair a fractured foot, didn't heal properly. That could have caused some production issues at Duke, then underwent another surgery recently to completely heal the foot, is expected to be ready for this upcoming season. Rolly's comp for him, after he played 20 minutes per game last year for Duke, is Danny Green, but I think that Whitehead has a little bit more ability to create and put the ball on the floor as compared to Danny Green.
Dude, even if he doesn't, if you're getting Danny Green
That's
late
fine.
in the first round, like a 3-and-D sniper, a winning culture piece, hey, like I would absolutely take that for Brooklyn, who's obviously, entering this new era when the Kyrie, KD, and briefly James Harden trio did not work out. They move on from all those guys, but you have Mikal Bridges. I would expect them to try and re-sign Cam Johnson. A guy who really performed well after the trade as well. So grade the pick, A, B, C, D, or F. Dariq Whitehead to the Brooklyn Nets. And Portland back on the clock, Chase. And, if this is a pick that doesn't get dealt, like that's even more evidence to me that they're just going to commit to this rebuild.
Yeah, and we can take a look at their profile here, Coop, with what the Blazers can do at number 3 overall. They did draft Scoot Henderson. A lot of pro comps for him to Russell Westbrook as a guy who can really attack the rim. Dynamic athlete. If he figures out his shot, he could be a problem in this league. Number 3 and 23 for Portland, obviously, with them on the clock. They had the 43rd overall pick in that second round. In 22, they drafted Shaedon Sharpe, who I think is going to be a really good player. Loved him coming out last year. Jabari Walker, Ismail Kamagate. So that's who they drafted last year. And for Portland, it's all about, and it all hinges, and it all comes down to what happens with Damian Lillard. Do you trade him away? And if you trade him away, the rebuild is fully underway. They didn't trade number 3. They're not, at least as of right now, trading number 23. So you get an opportunity here to stockpile a couple of young players at 3, 23, and 43. You trade Dame, you get some really good assets back as far as players may go, as well as some potential draft picks as well.
I would have liked Portland to take Leonard Miller here, teammate with Scoot in the G League Ignite. The comp is Jeremy Grant, a player who just played for them, but it looks like they're going to take Kris Murray, the brother of Keegan Murray, which I like this selection as well. He's going to go to Portland at number 23 overall. So Kris Murray, who we'll have some notes on him coming up here in just a second, he finally falls off the board.
So he's obviously not the player that his brother Keegan Murray is, who's drafted very highly out of Iowa. He did go to Iowa, but in the pre-draft process, Kris Murray was blowing a lot of people away and impressing a lot of people. Agile, nimble. The college production, like his brother, was certainly there. 20 points per game, 8 rebounds, almost 34% on his three-point shots, just shy of 48% from the field. He's 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. He looks exactly like his brother as well.
He really does.
Rolly had him, number 23 overall. That ended up coming to fruition. Number 9 wing in this class. he seems to play on the offensive end very easily. It comes seamlessly to him, very effortless scorer who can score the basketball, put the biscuit in the basket from all three levels, handle the ball in the half court at Iowa, so he can put the ball on the floor, but he doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands to be that productive type of player. Does have catch and shoot ability. I like his size at 6'8", 213 with that wingspan to get a shot off, but also he could back some guys down to get that shot off, create mismatches in the half court, in transition because of that athleticism. He could certainly finish around the rim. So I like the pick here for Portland. And if they're starting to rebuild here, a couple of good young pieces to do that with. And it comes at a position of need at that wing position.
Another note here on Dariq Whitehead in Brooklyn. He had foot surgery. You mentioned the foot problems. He will not play in the Summer League. So any Nets fans out there, take that for note. Sacramento's on the clock, which means we're creeping toward the end of round one, Chase. And the question is, does the audience want us to stay alive for round two? If you do, type Y for yes. If not, Chase and I will leave early and go have a couple of cocktails. So it's really up to you guys.
It's up to y'all.
Y for yes, in for no. Do you guys want us to stay alive for the second round? Chase, you want to get some shout-outs here?
Yeah, let's do some shout-outs here. Adam Lopez said yes. Eric said yes. Steven said yes. Ryan, Bobby, Laffy, Law, Steven, Tally, Nate, all saying yes. No no's yet, so that's good. Genji said what type of cocktails? We have all types of stuff here. Fireball, tequila, vodka. I have a margarita here to my right. Wolf's Den said yes, but also drink. All right, cheers.
Say less. Rolly, we'll recap as Rolly gets back into the fold here. Some of the recent picks since you've walked away. We'll recap last 5 or 6 selections. I want to get your thoughts on what's taken place here as we move forward here. Sacramento on the clock. I guess real quick here, Chase, if you're Sacramento, who are you trying to add to get to add to this winning team right now? Obviously, this is a team that's ascending.
Yeah, look, I mean, they're in a really good spot. De'Aaron Fox was a borderline MVP candidate last year. You drafted Keegan Murray, impact player from day one. Domantas Sabonis was an all-star. Malik Monk was terrific. What happens with Harrison Barnes? Do you want to bring him back because he's a free agent? If not, do you try to go wing here? And can that wing impact the game right away?
I'll add one more, too. Is Davion Mitchell a part of their future? He's underwhelmed a bit.
But he's a hell of a defender.
He is. I thought he would provide a little bit more offensively. I never thought he'd be a great offensive player, but a guy who could at least knock down an open jumper, that really has not come to fruition. So I think they got to figure that out, too. And Rolly will bring you back on here. Some of the recent picks. Wait a second here.
Oh,
the Mavs are making a trade.
Hey.
Here we go. The Mavs are on the clock. The Mavs. Yep. The Mavericks have just traded for this picks, and they've drafted
Nico.
The Mavericks have selected one of Rolly's best prospects. We'll get some analysis from him here. Olivier Maxence Prosper. And they're going to land Rashawn Holmes, which, with the trade exception, clearly, right?
Yes. There was some chatter that they were trying to use that tonight.
Yes. So you get Holmes, who found his way out of the rotation last year, but a player the Mavs have liked in the past. So a guy who can help a little bit at that center position. You just added one earlier in the draft, obviously, and you get Olivier Maxence Prosper, Rolly.
I think this might be the move of the entire draft. Woo! They took Dereck Lively at 12, who everyone thought they were going to take at 10, but they were able to move off Davis Bertans, get Dereck Lively still at 12, and the next thing you know, they trade for Rashawn Holmes, a really athletic, versatile big man, high-energy guy, crashes the glass. He'll probably be your starting center from day one, allowing Dereck Lively to come off the bench and learn a little bit. And then you get one of the guys I was really high on in Olivier Maxence Prosper. I love Prosper's ability to play, and I know I'm a Heat fan, and they rival the Mavs a little bit, so it stings a tad to see him go to Dallas. But this man is everything Dallas needed. 6'7", 7'1" wingspan, really good defender, can guard 1 through 4, will absolutely be a menace and a havoc creator on the defensive end. What did Dallas need alongside Kyrie, Luka? A rim-protecting big and a 3-and-D guy, and they hit all their boxes, and we're not even out of the first round yet. I would say this is a home run, first 25 picks for Nico Harris and Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks.
And you get Richaun Holmes, who maybe he's not what he was a couple of years ago, but if nothing else, energetic guy who can roll to the basket, be a backup center if you're going to start Lively right away. I'm feeling a lot better about things than I was a couple of hours ago for the Dallas Mavericks, so this is exciting. Also, Rolly, 34% from 3. Not a bad starting point here, the ability to improve in that area.
I'll say this, he's got a very smooth stroke. If you watch his highlights, when he shoots the ball, it looks very clean coming out of his hands. It looks like he's got a repeatable shooting stroke. I think he's going to be able to translate into this league and shoot 38, 39%. My player comp for him was DeAndre Hunter. If you remember, he was the 4th pick, a 3-and-D guy out of Virginia.
Been good when healthy.
I know, and I thought he's been able to do good things for Atlanta at times. I think Prosper's able to do the same thing. And I remember you guys, I told you guys, I wanted him at 18 for Miami as that 3-and-D guy, but he slides here to 24. I think it's a great pick. I don't know how many times I could say it for the Dallas Mavericks.
And you would think playing, getting some minutes next to Luka and ideally Kyrie if he returns, should get some open looks to knock down, be a catch-and-shoot guy offensively. Grade the pick, A, B, C, D, or F. Drop a letter grade in the comments. I'm a big fan of this move. You get Richaun Holmes, Chase, who has a better chance to contribute in this rotation than Davis Bertans did, so you got to like that overall for Dallas.
Yeah, so Boston is on the clock at number 25 via a trade. And also we have another trade. The Milwaukee Bucks, who weren't going to select until the final pick in this year's draft at 58, are now acquiring number 36 in a deal with the Orlando Magic. So clearly Milwaukee really likes somebody here who they think could be in range in the next 11 picks or so.
Yeah. So Boston now, as you guys grade the pick, A, B, C, D, or F, I think we're all in consensus. We like it. What do the Celtics do? I mean, they get this pick after dealing out Marcus Smart. Do they get some guard depth? What about a Nick Smith? I mean, do you take a chance on him here as a guy who was considered a lottery pick at some point, and now they don't have as much depth after trading Smart? What does Peyton Pritchard factor in to their future plans? We'll have to wait and see, but I feel like Boston could go in a number of directions here. The only thing I'm pretty confident they won't do is take a pure front court player, because you've got Kristaps Porzingis along with Al
Horford and Robert Williams.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so front court, I don't think that's much of a need. What do they think about Peyton Pritchard? That is a good point that you bring up, Harrison. There was some chatter that he was going to demand a trade if he wasn't in their plans, but now that they traded away Marcus Smart, who always seemed to have the basketball in a meaningful spot when trying to take a big shot, he's no longer on the team. That's a guy who sometimes would clog up the offense a little bit. I think they wanted to pave open some lanes for Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum to have less restrictions. And now Peyton Pritchard could be one of your points. Malcolm Brogdon could be one of your points. Do you try to bring in a young developmental wing? I think that in trading away Marcus Smart, Dariq White is going to play a lot more, and he was really clutch throughout the playoff run. I think he's a really good basketball player. So I think point guard could make some sense here, or wing.
Well, it looks like the pick is Marcus Sasser, but this pick is going to go to Detroit. Okay. So they're going to trade Sasser to Detroit and acquire the number 31 overall pick in this draft. So we'll see what the other details are on this trade. Indiana's set to pick next here at 26, but I kind of thought Marcus S. out, Marcus Smart, Marcus S. Sasser in, but actually he's going to go up to Detroit. And I loved Sasser at Houston. 4-year college player, got a little bit better each and every year, leader type of guy. And maybe that makes sense for Detroit, who has drafted a bunch of young and inexperienced players in recent years. Now you get a guy who spent a lot of years in college and did a lot of winning as well.
Him coming off the bench, I like it. You already have Jaden Ivey and you have Cade Cunningham. And let's hope that Cade Cunningham is able to get healthy and stay healthy, because once he got over some of those rookie hurdles during his rookie season, the end of the year from about the halfway point on, he was a special player last year. Season cut short because of that injury that required some surgery to his foot. For Sasser, good production too. I think the experience helps him here in coming in off the bench and maybe giving them minutes right away for a team that's not ready to compete. 17 points per game, 44% from the floor, not scared to let it fly from three-point range either. 38% on those shots last year.
Yeah, part of a team that made, one or two Final Fours, made another deep run as well this past year. So done a lot of winning. And Rolly, feel free to chime in on this pick here.
Yeah, I want to add something here. Sasser, I had him actually as the 32nd player in this class. But I put in my notes, I think he has the skill of a top 20 pick. It's just that he's 6'1" and almost 23 years old, so the age and size set him back a little bit, and he's just a grinder defensively, able to be an impact defensive player coming off the bench right away. My one question, though, is where does this leave Killian Hayes for Detroit, former top 10 pick? Does he get put on the move now? Because you draft Sasser at 25, you have Ivy and Cade Cunningham starting. I think Killian Hayes could be on the move, so be looking out for him to potentially be traded tonight or in the near future.
I'm not saying the skill set is the same, but are there some similarities to Jalen Brunson, who got overlooked because he spent 3 years in college? He was undersized, didn't have the raw athletic profile that teams look for necessarily, but a guy who just knows how to play the game.
No, I don't hate that comparison at all. And Sasser has a 6'7" wingspan, so he's a pretty lengthy guard for being only 6'1", and he's a really good defender. And when you play for Houston, you have to be a hard-nosed, gritty guy who plays defense. So I don't hate the Brunson comparison, and Sasser is crafty enough on the offensive end to hit threes, get to the mid-range. So I actually do love this pick, and I don't hate that comparison. I was never thought about it until now, but Harrison, I like it.
We'll see if Detroit can be as lucky as the Mavs and now the Knicks are with Jalen Brunson. So Indiana now on the clock. We'll see what those trade details are. We know Boston's getting 31. There's got to be something else there, obviously. We'll see what that ends up being. Who do you guys like here at 26 here? Chase, Rolly, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, Rolly, go ahead.
Yeah, 26, Indiana. I think they're in for they took Jarace Walker. I don't know. I like Leonard Miller for them, to be honest, but I know there's a lot of Kobe Jones rumors as well for Indiana. Kobe Jones, Kevin O'Connor kind of compared him to Malcolm Brogdon in the way he plays, because he's a hard-nosed guard who handles the ball, can shoot the three, plays good defense. Wouldn't hate him being a backup guard for Halliburton there. So I'd either look at the wing or backup guard. So I think I would lean Leonard Miller or Kobe Jones here for Indiana.
Help us out. Like this video. We still got almost 2,000 people watching live. Every 1,000 likes is a shot from Chase and myself. So if we get to 3,000, we will be sure to do that. And if you're enjoying tonight's coverage, hit that like button. We greatly appreciate everybody who's watching the show. We circle back to the big trade from earlier, Chase. Chris Paul to Golden State, Jordan Poole to Washington. Obviously for the Warriors, taking a chance on Chris Paul at 38 years old, I would assume, to be that second-team point guard. I'm fascinated to see how this all comes together.
Yeah, no, so am I. And what is Steve Kerr going to do? I highly doubt that they start Chris Paul, which at this point of his career, 38 years old, if he's willing to take a backseat to try to chase that vaunted NBA championship, I could totally see that being the case. You also have to plan and expect that Steph Curry at some point might miss some time, because throughout his career, he has been off injured throughout the regular season. So in the event that Steph is out, Chris Paul can be that primary distributor and playmaker. You have some smart basketball players now on this team, with Steve Kerr leading the charge, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. I still think they need to get a little bit bigger, a little bit athletic. They have that size deficiency, because we certainly saw that come to our eyes in that second-round series against the Los Angeles Lakers, when they simply could not guard the Lakers with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and then they kind of got cooked by some of the Lakers' role players as well. But for Chris Paul, you trade away Jordan Poole, who I think is going to shoot the rock 20 to 25 times per night on the Wizards team. You pair him up with Tyus Jones in that backcourt. Chris Paul is going to make better decisions with the basketball. He's not going to take as many bad shots as Poole. I do get concerned, a little bit when Curry is out. Poole was that guy who could pour it up, average about 24 points per game. Now you lose that. So, again, are you expecting that Jonathan Kuminga is going to take this big leap? I saw some flashes from Moses Moody in that series against the Lakers. Are you finally expecting some of these young players to fulfill big roles? We'll see, to be determined.
Hit that subscribe button on our Warriors channel if you're still watching live with us. As our draft coverage continues, go ahead and subscribe. If you're watching our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, youtube.com/WarriorsTV, hit that subscribe button over there as well. Couple notes here. Chase, the Celtics are getting 31 in future seconds in that deal, which he dropped 6 spots for future seconds. I find that a little interesting. I think that's worthwhile if you're Detroit, if you really like Sasser. And then also a couple of notes on that Mavericks trade. I'm not seeing any more details. So Sacramento really just wanted to get out of Holmes' contract unless there's something more there, and we'll keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah. Adrian Wojnarowski here tweeting, guys, Pacers are keeping pick number 26 and eyeing a mid-major riser on their boards. I think it's Sheppard, and I have been on record saying I love this kid. A lot of Quentin Grimes in him, 3-and-D guy who can shoot the lights out. I don't know if it is Sheppard, but I kind of have a feeling it is.
He had a great combine.
Yeah,
he
really can shoot the ball. 6'6", high release, good wingspan, everything you look in a modern-day shooting guard or wing at the three-point line.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. The wing out of Belmont, one of our best players available. We're cycling through some of the picks that have happened so far, but we got 5 picks left in the first round, starting with Indiana here coming up in just a few moments. Marcus Sasser, the most recent pick for the Detroit Pistons as they trade up, and it is going to be Ben Sheppard.
Great pick.
Look, I think Indiana is doing some good things here. I like the Jarace Walker selection. You get Ben Sheppard as well. He just seems like a Rick Carlisle player to me, Rolly.
I love this pick.
Played a lot in college. Coachable type of player. I think this is going to be a good fit here.
Yeah, Chase, I'll let you hop in here in a second, but
sure.
This pick is just a really good one from Indiana, and I think this is Buddy Hield. I'll see you later. Sheppard's going to be your new 2 or 3 next to Halliburton, and I'm really kind of salivating over this Pacers roster. I know there's a lot. I really am. I know there's a lot of buzz about trading Miles Turner, but keep Turner, run Halliburton, Sheppard, Jarace Walker, Miles Turner, and then grab a 3-and-D wing, and let's ride. That's a solid roster they're building in Indiana.
Chase, how do you feel about the pick?
Yeah, no, I like it. And, again, I think that sometimes where a player goes is completely overrated. Can you hoop or can you not? And that's really what it comes down to, that little equation. I like the size at 6'6". He's 195 pounds. In a situation like this in which he's almost 22 years old, I said this earlier about Jaquez, where the age, it's just talked about too much. Can you be a contributor for 5 to 6 years? And if that's the case, I don't care about your damn age because you're still going to be in your prime, and this guy can ball. 19 points per game, almost 42% from 3, and when you put him alongside a playmaker like Tyrese Halliburton, he's going to get a lot of open looks. And this is also a player who has a really clean three-point shot and distance around it as well. Can hit the pull-up, little off balance as well, and I think this could end up being a very good value pick, and hopefully teams start to get a little bit smarter here. It's not about where you go. It's about the player that you are.
Yeah, and look, like we talked about this earlier, Chase, unless it's for a, superstar level prospect, age just doesn't matter. Like, if you're projected to be a role player, which is what Ben Sheppard is, who cares if you're 22 or 19? Because you're not worried about what the player is going to be at 35.
No.
That just doesn't matter. You need to be thinking the next 3 to 5 years. And guess what? 5 years from now, he's going to be 26, 27. That's not going to make or break the future of your franchise if you are the Indiana Pacers. And, by the way, with today's regimens and sports science, guys are playing into their mid-late 30s anyway.
Steph Curry's 35.
Yeah.
He plays like he's 30.
Exactly. So Ben Sheppard, love the pick, love the player, like what Indiana's doing. Charlotte's on the clock. We'll explore that selection in a moment. But help us out if you want to shout out. Go retweet our pinned tweet. I will check that tweet right now and see if we've got any new retweets from last time we've done this. Appreciate everybody who's done that. There are a few more. We'll get the link in the live chat of this video. Appreciate everybody who has done that. Cowboy Alien has retweeted it. Isaac, not Isaac. We got Chris Wynn, Austin Panda in there as well. A couple more here. I'm seeing if this thing would load for me. We got Ike Pam, John Edward, U Burner, LLA Dubs, and Dixon the Goat, some of the most recent people to give us a retweet. So appreciate that. We love DC support. So, Chase, 4 picks left here in round 1. What stands out to you so far, and what are you thinking for Charlotte here?
Yeah, before that, Tim Weaver said if there are 30 teams, why only 58 picks in 2 rounds instead of 60? It's a good question because you do the simple math, right? Tampering. That's why there are only 58
Knicks,
picks.
and who was the other one?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Okay.
So that's why. Good question right there. So your question here, 3 picks left or 4 picks left. What happens here? Charlotte Hornets on the clock.
They took Brandon Miller, so, what do you think we're doing here? Oh, Nick Smith Jr.
I love this.
Rolly?
Yeah, I'll expand on my thoughts here because I think the Hornets have had 2 good picks here. Brandon Miller, obviously, I'm very bullish on him. You add in Nick Smith Jr. Listen, slight frame, not the best.
Terry Rozier?
Yeah, not the best defender, but his play style is like Terry Rozier, so he could be on the move. He could be the 2 next to LaMelo at the 1, and it could get dicey on the defensive end when you look at the potential starting lineup of LaMelo at the 1, Nick Smith at the 2, Miller at the 3, but that is a lot of offensive talent. This Hornets team will be scoring a lot of points this season. It's all about that defense to see if they can contend. But Nick Smith Jr., we've talked about him potentially being a lottery pick coming into this year and a top 10 pick, falls all the way to 27. I think it's because of his injury concern. Wouldn't be surprised if something comes out about medical red flags, but a slight frame, needs to add more weight to be impactful on the defensive end. But, hey, I like the value here for Nick Smith Jr.
Does he have any point guard traits? Like, can he give you some minutes as a primary ball handler? Maybe not right away, but down the road, is he capable of that?
Yeah, he has a decent handle. It's not perfect. I really think he would be very effective as the ball handler in a pick-and-roll situation. I put it in my notes. He would absolutely murder drop coverage because of his ability to step up and have that little floater or mid-range. He's got great touch around the rim. So I think as an off-ball, too, you can swing it to him and let him get a pick-and-roll and maybe play make out of that way. But as a pure point guard, I don't love that ability. He's more of a, I'm going to give you 15 points off the bench, or maybe just a starting 2 guard who can score as well.
Yeah, 5 games with 20-plus points last year. He only played in 17 of them, missed 19. So the injuries are a little bit of a concern.
He was a huge
but
recruit.
He's a crafty scorer when he is on the floor.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here. Again, Rolly, this kind of falls in Chase. This falls into that bucket of, good value, right?
Yeah,
like,
chance.
There's some kind of questions with the medical, the frame. I get all that, but midway through the college season, this was like a top 10 pick. And
I think I've said it a couple times on today's stream, before he played a game at Arkansas, he was a projected top 10 pick.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. That's
recruit.
the type of talent this guy has. So the fact that you're able to get him at 27, like I said, know the injury history, slight frame, but he has all of the offensive talent in the world to be a difference maker.
We were asked about Brice Sensabaugh earlier. Not the best athlete, but a good scorer. He goes off the board. I like what Utah's doing, man. I think this nucleus is going to come together pretty quickly here.
I'll say this before I toss it back to you guys. The teams that have multiple first-round picks, to me, have all hit home runs. Hornets, Jazz, Pacers, they're all getting very good value in the late rounds. Yes, the Blazers as well, even though they're still trading Damian Lillard. The picks in the 20s from these guys who have multiple first-round picks have just been people who have fell value, and I love that thought or that train of thinking from these GMs.
Chase, a guy who shot 42% from 3 in Sensabaugh here. How do you feel about this 41% from three, 6'6", 235? Not a great athletic profile, but if you could shoot, you could shoot.
Yeah, if you can shoot, especially at that size, and you can at least defend a little bit, then you certainly have the spot at the NBA level. And anytime a guy is hovering around 40% from three-point range and you play high-level college basketball and you show some of the ability that he did, then a team's going to take a chance on you. High basketball IQ, very smart player. I think that he does a good job of identifying some of the leaky holes within a defense. And for a catch-and-shoot guy, I think that he might be able to impact games here in the immediacy of his NBA career just because he can shoot from the outside and at least defend a little bit. Because of his weight, he did play a lot of two at Ohio State. I think at the NBA level, he could play a couple of different positions.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he fits with Utah, who all of a sudden, the depth this team has is
I like
really
what Utah's
remarkable.
building, Harry.
Yeah,
Completely
me
agree.
too.
Yeah, and, you wonder, Chase, Rolly, and let us know, guys, if you're loving the draft, type me. We'll get some shout-outs. I mean, Utah, I think you mentioned this earlier too, Nick, and we talked about this, Chase. I think it's just more evidence. Like, they're going to move Sexton. Like, the depth of youth is just so deep right now. Like, I think you move him, get a future pick, whatever the case may be, but they could be kind of like the Thunder where they've got all these assets, and then in the next year or two, they're going to pull the trigger on a trade at some point for a superstar caliber player. So I think Utah, considering a year ago in the playoffs, had Donovan Mitchell, Gobert, but a lot of questions after that, they've really fast-tracked this rebuild, in my opinion. They played better than expected this year. You get a good year out of some of those pieces in that trade, and now you're adding some more young nucleus pieces as well.
Man, you talk about a guy whose value has decreased over the last 2 years. That's Colin Sexton. I mean, back-to-back years, he averaged nearly 21 and 24 points per game. And now the last two, he's been injured a lot, 16 points per game and 14 points per game.
He was efficient this year, though.
Efficient
he'll get,
in those
you'll get
48
something
games,
in a trade.
but still, like, his value is not where it was a couple of years ago when he was on his way to becoming a very good young player in this league. Now, again, in those 48 games, 39% from three, a good trade piece for an acquiring team, maybe with some playoff aspirations.
Yeah, so now the defending champs, the Denver Nuggets, Rolly, chime in?
Yeah, I think this little Western Conference race for the 7th to 10 seed will be very fascinating this upcoming year. You've got the top teams, but then you got Utah, who I really like how they've built their roster coming off a rebound. OKC.
New Orleans, where do they fit?
New Orleans. Those three teams will be in that 7 to 10 range. A lot of potential with those three squads. This next upcoming Western Conference arms race, you could say, will be very fascinating to see how it plays out.
I think the West, for 1 year, got tired of not being the best conference, and they're like, we're back.
I'll say this, it might not be as top-heavy as the East. It will be
the depth will be
tough.
tough.
The depth between teams will just be incredible.
Yeah, and, especially with a team like Sacramento kind of emerging out of nowhere this past year. The defending champs take a winner himself, Julian Strawther, who – mistake if I'm wrong, he hit the big shot against UCLA, correct? 6'7", 210, 21 years old, has a good stroke. 39th on our board, Chase, but when you're a defending champion, you can kind of be more selective and try to identify a player that can help you win. I think he has the skill set that could come in and play off the bench right away.
I agree, and for him to go here, that's a big win for him just because of how the Nuggets have been able to implement some of these young players, but how they've been able to develop some of these guys as well. Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown in the NBA Finals. I mean, what a performance that he had on multiple occasions. And now they get another winner in Strawther, who I think is a good fit. I think that with a team like this, they're not going to be able to afford some of these really solid players like Bruce Brown,
He's gone.
Jeff Green, those types of players who could get the bag elsewhere, who helped you win a title this year. You have to find a way to reload a little bit and be financially savvy and fiscally sound in doing so. And by drafting a player like this, you can certainly do that. Honestly, down the road, it would not shock me if he is a future Michael Porter Jr. replacement. MPJ is making a bunch of money. If they could try to move off of him at some point and he steps in down the line, that could be an option. Really clean jump shot, good production at Gonzaga, 15 points per game, 47% on his field goals, nearly 41% from three. He can guard multiple positions on the floor. And if he improves his playmaking a little bit, I don't hate his vision. I don't hate his playmaking ability, but if you improve that handle a little bit, it just further solidifies his game to a certain
Well, and the
degree.
good news is he really doesn't have to be a playmaker. He can be a guy that could just catch and shoot, especially early on. You think about like Christian Brown, like he wasn't asked to do a ton. He had a big impact on this team in the finals.
Yep.
His role will probably increase because I do think Bruce Brown is gone. Jeff Green might be a guy you can convince to play on the minimum again. He's going to be 37. I think you probably let Brown go. You're not going to be able to pay him. You bring back Jeff Green, and now you have Strawther, who can probably give you, 8 to 15 minutes per game as a rookie. So I like the pick, based on big board rankings. It's slightly early, but again, when it's for a contending team and a guy who can play right away, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Michael Malone, during his drunken stupor at the Nuggets parade, did say that Brucey B wasn't going anywhere. I'm just not sure how they're going to be able to afford him.
We'll see.
A lot of teams are looking for a bench player who can shoot the three, who at least can put the ball on the deck a tad and can knock down some threes and defend at a high level. I think Bruce Brown can get paid, so it might be difficult for them to bring him back.
They get Brown back. I mean, that team's going to be tough. It's already going to be the favorite in the West.
Murray and
next
Jokic
year.
are going to give you an opportunity every year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. We do have a trade. Minnesota has traded up with San Antonio. They will now have the 33rd pick early in the second round. But to wrap up round one here, the Clippers still on the clock here, and Leonard Miller's still out there. G.G. Jackson, a couple of players we have round one grades on, still sitting here available. Clippers are at a crossroads. Do they run it back with Kawhi and PG? There's been reports they could split them up. They still need a point guard. I don't know who their point guard's going to be next year, but interesting position here at 30. Rolly, you have any thoughts on what the Clippers should do here?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned for the I forgot what team it was, the Pacers, that Kobe Jones has a lot of similar play style to Malcolm Brogdon. The Clippers almost just traded for Malcolm Brogdon yesterday.
Yeah,
obviously fell through because of injury. So I think at 30 here, Kobe Jones can be an excellent selection for the Clippers. He's just an experienced guard that can help them win now. If they decide to keep Kawhi Leonard and Paul George together and try to win next year in a Western Conference that could be there for the taking. Obviously, we'd have to go through the reigning champions in the Denver Nuggets. But I think Kobe Jones would be able to be an immediate impact player for them. Hard-nosed guy, hits the three. Just talked about a couple minutes ago. I think that would be who I would target if I was the Clippers. Or I would look in a different direction and look for a big. I mean, they had Plumlee they traded for or they bought out, I believe. And then they have Ivica Zubac. They probably need a real big for the foreseeable future. So
can James Naji be that? I mean, is he
He's a little bit of a project,
Yeah.
but I mean, he has all the talent. His pure measurables and length is incredible. Wouldn't be surprised if Naji was the pick here. I actually remember in my final mock draft, I had them taking Trace Jackson Davis, the center out of Indiana.
All right, we'll see. Clippers sitting here at 30. They have 48 as well. Chase, we gave Brooklyn so much shit for the Kyrie KD experiment not working. I feel like we've kind of let the Clippers off the hook for basically doing the same thing with Kawhi and Paul George, and that certainly has not reached expectations. Do you run it back with that duo? Do you give it another year? I'm interested to see what this Clippers organization does.
It's tough, man, because when they've been on the floor, they're really good together. They simply haven't been on the floor enough, and they also have one of the best coaches in the league, in my opinion, in Tyronn Lue.
Agreed.
And I think that in the course of a 7-game series, there are a few teams that actually want to play the Los Angeles Clippers. But Kawhi doesn't seem to me like he overly wants to play basketball, and Paul George, unfortunately, always seems to get injured at the most inopportune of times. So if they could just put it together, they can win the NBA Finals, honestly, with those two. But they haven't been able to put it together because of injuries.
Kind of feels like if they do run it back, it's like it's one last chance, right? Like if they try it again, this is probably the last year they're going to do it.
And to mention, Paul George has 2 years left, and his next year is a player option, so he could choose to end it if after this year if it doesn't work out. Now that player option is worth like $46 million.
If he's hurt
so
again,
he's
he'd probably
opting in, but still, those contracts are running out.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's the thing with Kawhi. How long is it going to take him to rehab going into next year?
How
conservative he is.
Well, and I also feel like with Kawhi, like we just talked about earlier, how guys are playing into their late 30s, even 40. I don't view him that way. Like, I think he might walk away at 34, 35.
Yeah,
like, he's won his titles. Like, he's
Made
already
his
a Hall
money.
of Famer. You wonder how much he even has the desire at this point in his career. So, something to keep in mind as well. Clippers set to make this final pick here in the first round. Boston, who moved back from 25 to 31, they'll kick off round 2. Nuggets have another pick at 32, and then it'll be Minnesota and Charlotte as where we did get final details on that Timberwolves-Spurs trade. I think it's 2 seconds, 2 future seconds. So there you go. And we talked about the Timberwolves earlier. We'll see what they pick. And Kobe to Los Angeles. Kobe Brown going to the Clippers with the number 30 overall pick. And we'll get some analysis here. I heard a wow from Rolly in the bullpen here.
Yeah,
Rolly?
I like Kobe Brown, but at 30, that's a little bit of a reach. He's my 45th ranked prospect. Now, he is very talented, and my number one note for him, he's an absolute grinder who gives nothing short of 1,000% every time he steps on the court. He was a forward for Missouri last year. If you watched Missouri basketball, you would know the type of play style they have.
Press Virginia.
I mean, they basically picked up 94 feet, and he was the embodiment of that system. I like Kobe Brown. I actually do.
252. That's
thick. He's athletic, though, and he's got a good shot. He's shot 45% from 3. He's a really good catch-and-shoot player. He's a type of player that can win now, so this pick kind of signals that those little trade rumors might not be the case, because if you're picking at 30 and you're planning on sending away Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, I would probably lean more of a win-now player rather than a prospect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. 16 points per game. You love the three-point shooting here. One of your notes here, Rolly, is you don't know if his offense translates. Expand on that thought.
Yeah, the reason why I don't know if his offense translates, he's a good catch-and-shoot shooter, but the majority of his scoring at Missouri was him just being the bigger person. Like, he would take people in.
People.
I mean, you're 6'7", 250 with a 7'1" wingspan. You're able to dominate people in the low post. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that at 6'7" in the NBA, going against taller players who also share a similar strength to him. Able to dominate inside at Missouri. I do not know if
he
can
a
do that.
4? Like, what is he?
That was his play style at Missouri, but he, like I said, he showed that catch and shoot ability, so maybe he can step out and be a big-time 3, but his domination inside the paint at Missouri, I don't know if that's going to be able to happen in the NBA.
Chase, why don't you take us back through the first round as we shift toward round 2 here, and we can kind of point out some of the notable picks here.
Yeah, so all the picks so far up to this point, first round 2023 NBA draft, as it was a long first round, lasting more than 3 hours.
Jesus.
What is the NBA doing? Victor Wembanyama, number 1 to San Antonio. Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson. We weren't sure how that was going to shake out at 2-3. It went the way that we predicted, with Miller going to Charlotte, Scoot at number 3, Amon Thompson of the Houston Rockets at number 4, followed by his brother at number 5, Anthony Black at number 6 to Orlando. This kind of signals to me that maybe the Magic will try to trade one of their guards. Bilal Coulibaly, who was the running mate to Victor Wembanyama, he goes to Washington here. He's actually grown 9 inches in the last 2 years. Is really starting to blossom and develop into a good player. Kevin O'Connor absolutely loved
Drink
that
that
pick.
milk, Bilal.
Exactly. Taylor Hendricks, round 1, number 9 to the Utah Jazz. Cason Wallace to OKC at number 10. Jett Howard, the son of Juwan Howard, also going to Orlando. The Mavericks needed rim protection and rebounding. Hopefully they got it with Dereck Lively. Gradey Dick to Toronto. Grade the Dick pick, A, B, C, D, or F. Number 13 to the Raptors here. And then the other good shooter in this draft class, Jordan Hawkins out of UConn, the defending champs. He heads to New Orleans. Now the Pelicans have Trey Murphy and Jordan Hawkins, 2 guys who can shoot the lights out. Kobe Bufkin, 15th overall to Atlanta. Keyonte George to the Jazz. They're putting together a really good draft. Jalen Hood-Schifino to the Los Angeles Lakers. He's a bucket getter, just needs to be a little bit more consistent. Jaime Jaquez out of UCLA to the Miami Heat. Brandin Podziemski out of Santa Clara to the Golden State Warriors. He's a guy who shot more than 40% from three-point range. small school guy, but the fit there to the Warriors is very, very intriguing on the day that they traded for Chris Paul. Cam Whitmore slid all the way to the Houston Rockets at 20th overall. That's a good value pick there. Maybe some medical concerns. Interested to hear what comes out of that situation in the aftermath of the draft. Noah Clowney out of Alabama to the Nets. Then they go Dariq Whitehead, the wing out of Duke. Injury concerns there. Kris Murray, the brother of Keegan Murray, to the Portland Trailblazers, number 23 overall. Olivier Maxence Prosper.
Nailed it.
Boom, out of Marquette to the Dallas Mavericks.
In a trade with Keegan Murray's Sacramento Kings.
Exactly. And that was a pick that we really cheered at the time. Nick Roloff nearly flipped the table over. Marcus Sasser.
He had to change shorts.
25th overall to the Detroit Pistons. Ben Sheppard out of Belmont. Small school shout out. Heads to Indiana. Like the pick there. Nick Smith Jr., highly touted coming out of high school. He slides all the way to 27. Injury concerns, but 5 games of 20-plus points last year, 2 against ranked teams. Brice Sensabaugh, the wing out of Ohio State. Some Landry Shamet comps there. And the last couple of picks here in the draft at 29 and 30, you had Kobe Brown, round 1, 30, going to
the Clippers,
and then
Julian
Strawther out of Gonzaga going to the Denver Nuggets. The defending champs get a solid player there.
We got a trade here, by the way. We're going to sign off on Mavericks Today and Warriors Today momentarily, but real quick, Charlotte moving up. Boston trading down again from 31. They're going to get 34 and 39, though. The Hornets are going to select James Naji, the big out of Barcelona. So we kind of speculated maybe he'll sneak into round 1. Well, he's the first pick of round 2. Rolly, once again, you mentioned the teams with multiple picks. I kind of like it for Charlotte.
I do too, and I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back here and take credit for this because in my final mock draft that went out a couple of days ago, I had the Hornets at 27 taking James Naji. I really like this fit for them because you have Mark Williams, who showed a lot of promise in his rookie season for Charlotte. He looked solid. James Naji likely will have to spend a year or two in the G League because he just didn't get a lot of playing time. But 6'10", 7'7" wingspan at 225. This guy has all the potential in the world to work on his craft in the G League and be one of the best defensive centers in the association. I love this pick. They're going to give him time to work on his game in the G League in all likelihood. Mark Williams will hold down the fort. And I think this is a great pick at 31. All the upside in the world for James Naji.
Mavericks fans, Warriors fans, we're going to sign off on Golden State Warriors Today and Dallas Mavericks Today. We will have draft grades for each of those teams on those channels at the end of the night. Busy night for both. We'll see you guys here in a little bit once the draft concludes.